Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Andy and Marty Make a Friend, talking about the world of darkness. A world of darkness, if you were.
It is a world of darkness.
How's everybody doing? I hope well. So last time we kind of did a very broad overview about the world of darkness, about character creation in the world of darkness, some lore stuff, especially about vampire. But we we at least mentioned all of the core old World of Darkness games.
I think so, yeah.
So even if we didn't go in depth about them, such as like games like Wraith the Unplayable, or
It turns out, I was just upstairs, by the way. I have 4 copies of Wraith the Unplayable, including a hardback version. And they're all the same edition, so I don't know what's wrong with me. I almost certainly inherited someone's copy, and then, someone's collection, and someone else was like, well, here's mine, too.
Were you all playing a game and 3 people left in the middle of it?
Oh, boy. Very likely. All of that is very likely. Anyway, the hardback is beautiful. The whole thing.
Yeah,
They knew how to put out a book, that's for sure.
Really did. The artwork was always cool. I mean, to a certain person's style, you're not gonna.
Yeah.
But actually, I wanted to show this. A while ago, Leaf Jones, who did a lot of artwork, sold a bunch of his originals. I bought this Toreador.
Yes.
From Clanbook Toreador.
Yeah, Leaf Jones eventually, there was always kind of like a signature artist per edition, I felt like. And Tim Bradstreet did all the original, well, not the original, I think Josh Timbrook did the original Clan art, and then they brought in Timbrook, they brought in Bradstreet. And then, Leaf Jones was like the guy for an entire edition. I think Vampire 20th, is that right? Does he do all the...
I think he does do all the artwork in Vampire 20th,
yeah.
Yes. And I like him. I know when I Googled his name to look for something earlier, I saw someone who did not care for him. But
he's got a style. He's got real thick lines, which I think if you don't like thick lines, you're going to not be here for Leaf Jones. But his work's got a lot of life to it. I like it.
I think it is. It doesn't age.
Yeah.
Like whereas some of the Gothic punk art has aged to be a little, well, this is very 90s or early 2000s.
Oh, yeah. That's where I live.
Tim Bradstreet, I love Tim Bradstreet's art. Ken Meyer Jr. did a lot of art, too. I like it all. Some of it is, I mean, a lot of the clothes are dated. No,
they're not. You take that back.
Sorry.
Never go out of style.
I don't know who it is, but there's a Vampire the Eternal Struggle card. I think it's Sayla. She's a Bruja anti-tribute, and she just has the dumbest look on her face. And I think it's on purpose. I hope it's on purpose. She really conveyed that this person's a real dummy.
She's a mouth breather. And she's undead, so she doesn't breathe.
She doesn't breathe.
No, that's a fashion choice. You're keeping your mouth open.
But yeah, so we're going to talk more about the World of Darkness. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about New World of Darkness, aka Chronicles of Darkness.
Yeah.
And then I'd like we'll perhaps create a character, or Marty actually just mentioned maybe we'll just kind of rapid fire concepts for each clan, and I thought that was a cool idea too. So I did want to say at the very start, and speaking of Vampire: The Eternal Struggle, VTES, the card game.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I got into the World of Darkness. Marty and another friend of ours started to teach me how to play Vampire: The Eternal Struggle, the card game. I've mentioned it before on stream. It's an interesting card game. It's complicated. It's very intricate, but I liked the art immediately. I really dug the lore, and especially whenever, you all would tell me more about the lore or stories from when you were playing, or kind of canonical, like the story of Dracula in Vampire: The Eternal Struggle was always one of my favorites. Because there is Dracula. He's not the first vampire, but he's a pretty big deal.
There's a Dracula, and he's got some baller moves.
But so that's kind of how I got into it, and I always thought that it was and is a cool card game. It died for a while, and now it is back, and they're going to release, I think, a big box set called Vampire: The Eternal Struggle 5th edition.
Oh.
And it's got like one deck for each of the core like Camarilla clans. I think it's Malx,
Okay.
Nosferatu, Ventru. They changed the Ventru logo though. I don't like it. It's fine.
Ew.
Yeah, it's like a scepter crossed with a sword now, and that doesn't really fit.
It feels more throwbacky than.
Alcavian, Toreador, Tremere, Nosferatu, Ventru. It might not be the Bruja because they left the Camarilla in V5, the RPG. They're just Anarchs now. I know.
It's the laziest answer. You fucking polls.
But anyway, it's a big box set, and they're pre-constructed decks, but they're actually good pre-constructed decks. Now, the downside is it doesn't quite give you enough cards to maybe run like a proper tournament deck with it. So you have to buy 2 of them, and they're like $100 a piece for the sets, which is a lot. But that's how they run card games now.
Yeah, well, especially, I mean, they're doing print on demand. It's really a labor of love with the people who have kept it alive. It's an amazing game. It's a steep buy-in, but once you get past that steep buy-in, and I don't necessarily mean monetarily, because it's actually a game where it's hard to buy your way to victory.
Yes.
I was talking a bit in chat when you were talking about it, but like the rare cards are corner case. Like they're pretty good at doing one thing, but commons are always going to be the better card. You want 70 of that common card, and this one rare actually is just going to take enough space in the booster pack, and it's going to live in the back of your box until you can find a reason to use it. Like, yeah, a lot of the things it did was revolutionary. It was Richard Garfield's second game. He wanted it to be a social game. He wanted it to be 4+ players. There's this whole political element to it. You actually have to like talk it out. The cards tell great stories. Yeah, there's a lot to love about that game. And it is in a lot of ways it's an easier on ramp now to getting into the lore and all the cool stuff.
I found that to be an easy way because I could immediately picture some of this stuff. It's like just like when this is that, or it's I know what Nosferatu look like because I've seen a bunch of examples of them through card art. Yeah, and I know kind of their deal and what they might do. So yeah, and again, having people who could, when we play games, we like to tell like kind of little stories. Whenever we would play HeroClix, we would play theme games and kind of tell little stories and do funny voices. It turns out not everyone likes to do that, and some people just want to win. Yeah, great.
People are weird.
Yeah, you brought some garbage team that doesn't have any comic characters that have ever appeared together. Well, my thematic Titans team might suck, as you say, but I get to do funny voices.
Yeah. I'm Garfield Logan. I was bit by a monkey.
See? Who doesn't want to play with that? Instead of my scientist moves 3 squares.
Yeah. You playing Cyborg Superman? Get out of here.
I played Cyborg Superman. But I played him on a Metropolis team. Or no,
right.
I played straight up Superman Revenge Squad.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Also, this week I watched an Interview with the Vampire.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. It's... I know we did have to rent it. We did have to pay for it.
Yeah.
Or no, it was on Hulu, I think. It doesn't matter.
It's not bad, though.
No, it's good. And it took Krista, maybe 10 minutes before she went, wait, it's Tom Cruise. I was like, yeah. Because he's not very Tom Cruise-y in it, I don't think.
No. And they really embraced it, no pun intended. And it gets you in a mood to be like, yeah, actually, that's kind of... All of a sudden, you want to play Vampire again, because you're like, fuck, this is really doing it. Hated the books, but I thought that one movie was pretty decent. And thanks to those books and that kind of general zeitgeist, we got Vampire the Masquerade for sure. But
there's a lot of carryover.
Yeah, well, and just that idea of who were you and what period in time did vampires do what, right? And we can talk about this when we get into if we're talking about Ventru concepts or something like that. But right, your vampire's not the mayor, and your vampire doesn't even control the mayor. Your vampire controls the people who work for the mayor. You know, a Nosferatu like has the the hospitality team that empties the trash for the White House, or whatever. Not, you don't control the halls of power. You control everyone around the halls of power. And they were always pretty good at kind of banging that drum of kind of like, look, vampires didn't kill Robert Kennedy. Vampires told the people who told the people to kill Robert Kennedy. That's my go-to example. Yeah.
And Louis' move is burning things down because he does it like 5 times in that movie.
Yeah. Oh, because it's all so dramatic, and I love that about it. Like, it's all just so mellow, dramatic. Everyone's heart is on their fucking sleeve, and I think that's what's so alluring about like the Toreador and the Bruja is that's what they're supposed to be, and you're these undead things kind of walking around and still pretending to be people, but that's all you have left is the melodrama. You have fucking centuries, so it's just may as well be a big fucking soap opera. Everything you fucking do may as well just be like, well, then I don't want to live anymore. There's Antonio Banderas. He looks great without his shirt. Why is he even wearing one ever?
Man.
Like,
Kirsten Dunst is a great child actor.
And I have forever been in love with that concept since she did it. That idea of being frozen in time. Ask me the amount of teenage/pre-teenage girls that I've played as vampires. The number will not shock you.
No, the
opposite of a listicle.
The Prince of Pittsburgh from Pittsburgh by Night was a teenage girl.
Yes, and she is actually a legacy character of my own. I never played her, but I played her sire, who was a Ventru with a feeding restriction of children.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
So which is gross. But,
it's so terribly gross.
Yeah. But so he had to ghoul a child, or a roughly child-aged person to help him lure children. Because he was trying not to be evil, but again, inevitably, no matter how nice of a vampire you are, you inevitably be evil. But so that he slowly nursed her up to a point where, like, he would ghoul her for a couple years, then try and let her age a little bit, then ghoul her a little bit. But if he lets her age too much, he can no longer feed from her ever. Mm-hmm. And so it's this kind of constant balance. And by the time he's dying, which canonically would have been in the Sabbat Purge of the South, he embraces her, and she's now stuck as this kind of tween-age girl or whatever. But is 300 years old, has seen all this shit, and that's why she's the principal.
Yeah, and we'll stop talking about Interview with a Vampire in a second. But Antonio Banderas has some ghoul kid that he just keeps drinking from, and you're like, what's this kid? Like, that's never really explained. Is this like his son or something? Like, he's driving his carriage. He's 12.
Yeah.
But you also see, what children can kind of get away with for Kirsten Dunst's character of just like walking into stores and people immediately like, oh no, and then you just eat them.
Yeah. Oh no, are you lost, little girl? Sure I am. Can you help me? Maybe in the back or something? Look, I'm hungry and I don't have a lot of time for your horse shit. If we can just get there. Kid monsters are great. All the high melodrama and who were these people as people and what were they doing, and the fact that the thing I like the most probably about that setting, again, I never really got into the books. The writing just never did it for me. But what I do think she did very well was not only catch the romanticism, but like, dude, vampires loved Paris too. Like, vampires love this time, and like, vampires are in all the hippest clubs doing all the coolest drugs or whatever because that's where the people are. And they have all the time in the world to be in these salons or whatever, doing these things. And it really immediately gets your imagination going of just kind of like, I wrote an article on my way out. It might be the last bit of writing I did for them. I don't remember if it was or not. But it was supposed to be kind of the last published book, and that since has not been true thanks to Kickstarter and stuff. But I just wrote this whole thing on like vampires are people too. And like, don't take that out of them. It's very easy, especially early on, to be very dread serious about everything you're doing. Everything is like, my only friend is the road and the shadow. It's just like, well, you sound really boring. But like the idea that Brazilian, vampires are super into football, like still, like it's just kind of like, and they're all a bunch of like Bruja and Toreador, so they're all just kind of like, they're getting into fights, they're fucking hooligans. Like the idea that there's still something that they just love, like that they're taping a program or that they're following, the do's and don'ts of politics, because it's never been more exciting. I remember when all these guys were running up the bar tab in Philadelphia, and now look at these dummies. I can't wait to watch election night coverage or whatever. Yeah, just remember to have passions. Great segue jump here by me, but Brad Meltzer having Merlin be super into mini painting in like a couple frames in Identity Crisis. Like when it's just kind of cutting to like all their private. Yeah, no, I can tell. You're really stuck with me. Thanks.
Well, at first I thought like Arthurian Merlin. Not
no,
I'm sorry. So then I was like, when did he write now I got you.
No, Merlin with a Y. Duh. No. And yeah, like this idea that he's just a nerd. Like when he's not fighting Green's arrow. He's just a nerd. He's just at his home with his dumb hobby. And like to have the whole like supervillain lounge or whatever that they crash into, and Slade's just like, I'll fight the Justice League for free. It creates this very interesting look into this world, but they're all just kind of into their own thing. When no one's looking, they're just trash. And so yeah, the idea that you're a vampire just you have eternity. You have hundreds of thousands of years if it's uninterrupted. You have to be bored at night. Like you can't always be up to, well, tonight I'm going to do some more lurking. Like
I don't know what they did before Netflix.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
There's plenty of nights where nothing's going on, and you're just going to have to create your own fun. The idea that a young coterie has a board game club or something would not surprise me. So yeah, I like the idea that vampires are people too. Got to fill those hours somehow. And the younger you are, the more likely it is that you still have very terrestrial concerns. But if you're an old ass vampire and you just got this crochet scarf that's going out the door, you know what I mean? Like you've just been working on that shit for centuries, or you're still making tapestries and shit. Who knows what dead arts you're just kind of like, oh yeah, no, I got a whole loom set up. It's a great.
You've discovered CBS All Access, and they have every season of Blue Bloods.
I'm watching.
But something else I liked about Interview with the Vampire is that the people weren't dumb. Like it's just like because they're on a plant. Louis owns a plantation, so he has slaves, and the slaves are like, "Yeah, you're clearly a monster. Like you don't eat food. You just came out with this lady's got 2 bite holes in her neck. Like you're clearly a vampire."
Yeah, dude. Well, now he's gonna burn this house down.
It's the start it's the start of his move.
Yeah.
He's
gonna real MO this guy.
Jeez. Get a journal, Louis. We talked a little bit last time about kind of the World of Darkness versus 3E Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
But I was also thinking about because the World of Darkness, the first 2 editions come out before 3E. They come out during the tail end of 2nd edition when TSR is dying anyway.
Yeah.
But so they're offering a fresh alternative to that as TSR gasps for breath. Please buy Spelljammer.
Yeah.
You like Ravenloft? You like vampires? So it's offering sort of a more serious adult alternative to that. But then it's interesting to me the kind of how 3E reacts to White Wolf, where it is way crunchier and stuff, but the art style is clearly taking so much from White Wolf of just like dungeon but punk. Like
premier quality books, spend on the art, spend on the writing. A lot more in-world fiction to kind of get you into it. That's the thing. All of these books, pretty much after the intro chapter, read like fiction, right? Like there's some crunchy stuff of here's some world building. As a storyteller, here's the ways that you want to tell your story, whatever. But they are just steeped deep in fiction. They want. I was saying it last week. I'll say it again. They want every page you turn to make you want to play this thing all that much more. You you can barely finish the book. You're so excited to create 100 ideas by the time you're. And 3 definitely came in trying to do that of like, you want to play a bard, right? Or, I don't know that bard would be my best onboarding, but like, you thought that fighters were just sword and board. Sometimes they've got daggers. We're not there yet, but here's different ways that you can be. You can be a knight. You can be a swashbuckler. You can be a thing. Like really trying on that to size for sure. Again, I think then their goose was a little cooked. TSR had been buried. 3E definitely vacuumed up a bunch of people that were into that kind of thing, and there wasn't so much edition wars, but there was a lot of like kind of firing across the counter between White Wolf and D&D and stuff like that. It was mostly phony. Sure. I was in the room. I'm trying not to be this guy, but I was in a room. I was on a panel with Justin Achille, world famous Justin Achille, and it was right when 4 came out. We were there. I attended the Ennies. I was sitting near Mike Merles and Chris Perkins. We mostly booed them. Pathfinder won a bunch of Ennies because everyone still wanted 3.5 apparently, but we were asked, just kind of like, well, you're coming out with this new book. At the time it was Hunter, Enwad Hunter. Hunter the, not Reckoning. What's?
Vigil, right?
Yeah, thanks. Most of my published credits, ladies and gentlemen.
I was just looking it up, to be fair.
Hunter the, what's it called? No, but yeah, Hunter the Vigil. And they were kind of like, D&D's coming out. Like, what do you think about that? And Justin Achille's like, I don't think we're competing for the same crowd. Yeah. Like, I just bought 4E. I've got the books right here. Like, but we're not slicing from the same pie. You either want to play a dude who goes and has a spiked baseball bat and hits vampires in the face, trachea holes, Draculas, or you want to be fighting dragons in dungeons or whatever. Like, you don't want to do the same thing in one afternoon, probably, at least. So, and I think that was always true. They weren't competitors for the same market. Just about, or like if you wanted to get an edition war over D&D is better than Vampire, well, that was just going to be your aesthetic anyway. You weren't going to convert that person or whatever. But no, I think that's very astute of you. It very much, I think, did try and take its cue. I think the whole world did. Like, every game coming out at that point was trying to chase that vampire money, trying to chase that, like, what is it that these kids got? And I keep calling them kids. By the time they were doing that 2nd and 3rd edition, they were all professionals. They had already been industry vets for a while. Just now their star was on the rise. But yeah, and honestly, it was just changing the way you looked at role-playing games. You weren't numbers on, graph paper anymore. You were the numbers on the graph paper helped you play the character that you wanted to be, and it was such a dynamic shift. And it hit me at just the right time. I was a young teenage dirtbag. I just played a bunch of D&D with a pretty old traditional edition warrior. We weren't allowed to play second, except for like the 4 charts that he really liked, 4 tables. One of which being the unarmed combat table, and a few things from Dragon Magazine. Those are fine. Those are fine, but everything else it's like, all right. And this. You ever seen The Jerk with Steve Martin, where he's moving out of the house? He's just kind of like, I don't need anything except this telephone and this lamp and this pillow. So it was that kind of graduating list of like things that were cool, I guess, from other editions. But yeah, I was just about done with it by the time we first saw a glimpse of Vampire. Then we played some more Vampire, and then Werewolf and Vampire Second were kind of contemporaries to me. That might not have been the release schedule, but that's how I kind of remember it. So I think it went Vampire, Vampire Second, then Werewolf, then they started expanding the line. And yeah, I never turned back. The ability to play with these nuanced roles, and when we get into creating, which we definitely should do. Mm-hmm. I'll walk through how you create a character, but also I'll give you some advanced tips unless you already kind of know them or intuit them yourselves. But because one of the greatest things about creating a vampire character, which I just don't find as much, 5e for D&D has been a wonder to me. I wish they had embraced the kind of ancestry or whatever, or origins or whatever they're going to call the kind of greater background selections. Wish they'd embraced it earlier. I sure do. I'm well on record for that, I hope. Because of this, because as soon as they added backgrounds, I'm like, there we go. There's that extra wrinkle. There's something that lets it be that I'm not just a fighter. I'm a fighter who was what? Where am I coming from? What did I do it for? Can I not play 16 Legolosses every time I roll up an Elvish Ranger in some way? And again, I tried to play an off-type Elf Ranger in 4E. It didn't really let it, and then that's why I replayed it in 5E, because it gave me the tools to build a Ranger who wasn't very good at ranging. Hated the outdoors. So... Yeah. Oh, the element of discovery, which again doesn't exist as much on a D&D page. It does a little bit, but it's really minor. My favorite part about creating a vampire, a werewolf, a human, or whatever is once you kind of spend your base, like, all right, I want to be good at this, this, and this. I'm a cop, so I probably have this, this, and this. And I grew up on the streets, so I'm probably a little streetwise and probably this. And then you start filling it out. Then you got a couple points left over. You're just kind of like, hey, you know what? I think I'm kind of into science. I didn't see that coming, but yeah, I think I got a couple pots. Like, you're going to have a couple points left over where you're going to like suddenly discover this wrinkle of your character that you didn't have at the concept. Your character's not done baking until you put like nature and demeanor on them.
Well, and the converse of that too is it shows you what they're bad at. Maybe you're like, I built my character and like here I'm looking at it all and I have 0 points in drive. I can't drive a car. Why can't I drive a car? Like,
yeah, no, 100%. The stories you tell in those that you start to tell yourself in those dots, like I've never met a character creation system that invites you in that same way. There are plenty of good ones. There's plenty of crunchy ones. There's plenty of ones where it's fun to create. You can create a ton of characters in a row or whatever. I've never had such a conversation with the character in creation the way you do in White Wolf. It's very much you look at this blank piece of paper and say, who are you? And even if you're just kind of like, I'll go with the cop because it popped in my head first. I'm a cop. Well, cop doesn't mean that physical is your primary. In fact, it might not even be. It's probably not lower than your secondary just because you have to meet certain physical standards. So, all right, I'm a cop, but what if I am a social cop? Or what if I'm a detective? So I'm, intelligence is my primary things or whatever. From the first decision, everything just kind of cascades down, knocking into every other decision until you have this really, I can't speak enough to it. You get these really rich characters just in taking this journey in dots. And yet, listen, you can give yourself 2 5s in this and 1 5 in this and whatever. You can. And you know what? You're probably going to have a good time killing Goombas or whatever you're going to be doing that afternoon, or fighting werewolves or something. And that fun is just as valid. I'm telling you, it's going to be a lot more fun. And one thing that I'll talk about when we do get into spending points or whatever is that you also have to unmoor yourself from, I think a lot of traditional skill sets is, well, 1 point's good, 2 points is better than that, 3 points is better than that, and 4 points is better. Just because of the way that dice pools work, and we're seeing a little bit of this in Star Wars, the way that dice pools work, it gets very exponential very quickly. Like having a single dot in a skill is good. You're good at that skill. You're better than most people at that skill. Just go with it. Like, you don't need 3 dots in it to be good at it. You just need 1 dot. You need to be able to show up when someone says drive. You can be like, oh, I've got points in drive. I can do that. Let me try.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so the way the dice pools work, you have to adjust because it's almost exponential. It's not quite exponential. I'm sure there's a better mathematical term for it, but it very much it works on like a curve, maybe curve might be the more
it steps up quickly. Notice a difference whereas in D&D +1 to your skill isn't really that noticeable than +0,
right?
Or +2 versus you're not getting there. But yeah, in Star Wars, which we've been playing a bit, we've had 3 games now. Yet when Jedi Master Kira Kadas has to do anything and she rolls a fistful of dice, it's very different than if her Jedi Padawan has to do something and Roz is rolling 1 die.
Yeah,
there's a huge difference.
Well, and for our own people who may be watching or might stumble across this later, or even generally of our streams, the one where I'm probably World of Darkness vampiring the most right now is probably that playing the Jedi Master. Because I was thinking about this after the fact of like, hey, I probably overstated a little bit how much of a bastard I am. I hope most people get an impression of how fun it is to play with. I'm definitely a darker person when I play some World of Darkness. That's in the name. But the thing that kept coming back to me was like, oh, actually, this is what playing a vampire is like, at least to me. Because, again, you can play 5 potence, 5 celerity, you can be a big bruiser, you can push your fists through things, that's fine. No great story in history ever started. And then he punched him in half or whatever. That's you, though, if you're a punching people in half person.
Garth Ennis disagrees.
Garth Ennis for sure disagrees. He's in my mentions right now. Son of a bitch. So, but the way that as everything was happening in our latest Star Wars adventures, please like and subscribe to the channel. Go check that out. I think it's a lot of fun. But and very intentionally, and I love. It's been a while since I've gotten to play a character that does this. I sat still for 2 of our 3 episodes, or 3 of our 3 episodes, or whatever. I sat still, but rippled out. I sent other people to do things. I sent other people to check on the people that I'd sent to do those things. I told some fucking Trandoshan that he should probably get involved in this, and then went over to put out that fire of just kind of like, clearly the Trandoshan's upset. What's going on? Like, that is some Vampire Age shit right there, because it's all about just pushing a marble into another marble, and like letting everything play out around you, where you can cause a panic at the disco and walk out, you know, like the other side with having fed on 3 people in the chaos or whatever. Or, you know, your enemy came into the same place that you are, so you do something over here that ripples its way across the crowd to them. Like, you interact with the universe so much differently. I mean, if you're playing some young punk, which again, I do not want to discount, it's a lot of fun. Play a young punk. If you got no idea what you want to play a Bruja. They're a ton of fun. You know, Bruja, probably. Although I always like the distinction that I actually might have made this up, because I made up a lot of things that sometimes became canon later. I was notorious for it. But I always like to think that American Bruja call them Bruja, and everywhere else they're like, do you mean Bruja? My God, you idiots.
But like, there's so much stuff
in language.
Yeah, there's so much stuff in the World of Darkness that, it, like, depending on... Is it Camarilla or Camarilla? Like,
yeah.
Bruja. The 18 different ways to pronounce Zimishi.
You mean Zimsies?
Yeah, it's a T and then a Z. How do you make that sound?
No, you mean Zimstay. I understand.
Zimistay.
No,
there we go.
Yeah, it's weird the way you say it. You know, and I'm an Ospe guy, but I'm pretty sure Auspex is right.
Right.
Because it's Auspices, which would make it Auspex. That's probably the root of it. But when I was a kid, I called it Ospe. And I remember being challenged, just kind of like, what language ends with a silent X? I'm like, French, all the time. Literally French, all the time. Fuck off.
Ospe is very French. Like,
yeah.
Some Toreador in Paris. Do you mean Ospe? I meant Auspex, and I think you knew that.
Mon Dieu.
Hold my earrings.
Oh, le petit bastard. Yeah, and I made some big deal out of it last week, but maybe not a big enough deal. Like, in too many games, probably even D&D is pretty guilty of this. In the end of the day, you want to be able to kill monsters, really. You're going to have to want to be able to fight a monster. Making an RP tank, like, you can get away with it if you're a particularly flamboyant bard or a Storm of Stars, but even Storm of Stars is going to pull out a rapier and cast a Cone Cold or something, right?
Yep.
You're going to have to be able to kill a monster at some point. So there is no, as Hava will tell you, the spell list is shit. I made a lot of mistakes before I got into this fight. Not so in the World of Darkness in general. You can be a social tank and beat the pants out of everyone in public. Again, if you want to do great violence on me, there's a lot of people around, champ. What are you going to do? I'm sorry, the Masquerade still exists. So are you going to really Hulk out on me and like pull off a lamppost and hit me? Oh, look, granted, I have to check my back as I'm going home because you might be able to jump me in an alley somewhere between here and where I go. But until then, oh, dude, the world's my playing. If you're smarter than someone, you can actually, that is your superpower. You can just be smart and manipulate the environment around you and use things that other people don't know and be canny about it. The kid Ventru who's there just to tweet can take down his boss in 120 characters. Oh, yeah. You remember the fall of Rome? Cool. You're about to remember the fall of your house. Cool. Send. Yeah, I'm going to step out. You need anything? You need, what's your feeding restriction again? People have just eaten chicken? Whatever, cool, yeah, I'll be back. Woo! You know, like, I feel pretty confident, but I feel like I'm going to run out of this phrase pretty quickly. It is the best system I've ever found for being able to create a social tank who fucking slays. Who you can build a mental tank that fucking slays. Nothing gets past you. You can see it coming. Even wits is one of the stats that you roll for initiative. It's wits awareness or wits alertness. So being smart means that you go first because you reacted fast. And so you can get yourself, like, as soon as you see that guns are being drawn, I leave. I declare my action. I'm leaving. No, I'm not sticking around. Fuck you. You got us into this. No, I am leaving, I said. I go out on the street. I hail a fucking cab. Good night. Good night, Jerry. Good luck with this, whatever you did. Is this a Sabat bar? Oh, Jesus. When I never see you again, I want to forget you just like this.
Typical Jerry.
Fucking Jerry. Yeah, and again, like, having tons of dice is great and all. And look, if you want tons of dice, we can talk about Werewolf anytime you want, because that gives you a ton of dice. You can become just a raging combat monster. And there, you're going... I was going to say you want to be good at killing monsters in Werewolf, but you don't need to be. You're going to be good at killing monsters in Werewolf, because even your weakest character is going to be able to put on, +5 strength, +4 dexterity, and +6 or something stamina. You're going to be weak for a werewolf. You're still going to be able to tear the crap out of most things in your way. That's just kind of the way it works. But and this goes back to the one friend of our particular question of why would anyone play anything other than werewolf? Like, that's not even the point of werewolf. Like, werewolf is a lot more combat focused. It's a lot more family focused. You play packs, right? I think with vampire, they realized that they had painted themselves into a corner of like, all right, all 5 of you have created your characters going around the table. Dave, I'm a loner. Okay, cool. Becky, I'm a loner. Great. Gary, loner. Cool. Bill, help me out. I'm a loner who's sad on the inside. Thank God. Jerry, my only friend's the road? Of course it is. Okay, well, this game's haunted from fucking Jump Street. But we're going to make it work. And so that's built into the setting for sure. Like, that's part of it. But I do think early on they were like, boy, people coming from a D&D party to the, I only trust myself to watch my own back, McGee times 5 here. So with Werewolf, you create a pack. And you don't all have to get along, but you are all of common purpose in some way, shape, or form. That pulls you together. And I think thereafter they got pretty good at being like, we should really put the social group at the center of the thing still. And Vampire has that a little bit. It's just immediately phrased at the edges if you let it. Like, I think even Demon, of all games, was better at keeping your groups together because, look, I remember you from before the Fall of Creation, and you're the only person here who remembers the Fall of Creation, so, hey, you and me, champ. We're in this together.
I definitely want to get to doing some form of character creation, even if it's just us going more in depth of it. But I did want to ask before we do that, if you did want to say anything about New World of Darkness.
Yeah, that's
or the Chronicles of Darkness, which it's been rebranded as.
It's been rebranded because it's gone under. Actually, it's never gone through an ownership change. The ownership was forced to change their names. It's always been the same people. For the 3 people who might stumble across this video who are just kind of like, whatever happened there? Rich Thomas is still holding it down, and he was one of the OGs. His art's in Vampire First Edition, I'm pretty sure. So he's been there the whole time. Last week we talked a little bit about the time of judgment, right? Like, they were just kind of like, all of our various apocalypses happened at once. And it was heavy meta plot. I think they even invented the word meta plot. I don't remember that RPGs had a word meta plot.
No, I think for sure.
Yeah.
They certainly popularized it.
Yeah, this idea that there was an evolving world, that if you bought every book, you got to see what the latest chapter of the evolving world is. And then you could tailor it to your game, or you could ignore it. Like, they were pretty good about just being like, look, if you love this stuff, great. If you don't, great. And I have to say, we had played most of 10 years of these games, so the idea of having this through line, because my home group, which was pretty robust and had been playing together forever, we started being like, yeah, shit, let's do it. Let's end the world. So every game we told after that was another glimpse of the apocalypse, and it gave a really neat story hook every time of like you were just seeing another chapter, and then like a crossover character would come, you just be like, what the fuck that guy's doing? What's that guy doing here? He was there when New York fell. I was there because I was playing a different character, but I saw that dude. What's he doing here in Arizona or whatever? Like, really cool stuff. It really made for a lot of cool story potential. But certainly internally, people were starting to feel like the meta plot was an albatross around their neck, because they had to keep advancing the story. And now they'd freed demons, blown up Wraith. All of Wraith was gone now. They were kind of petty bad guys in the background of their Hunter game. Angels were fucking revealing themselves in other game lines. You know, like things were happening. And there was no way to put the genie back in the bottle. You couldn't have what happens after the end of the world necessarily. And they tried. They put out a pretty good book, which had a bunch of what could happen next. You know, they kind of did a big sign off to the whole series, and we're like, we're going to do a new World of Darkness. We're going to start over from scratch. History will judge how much of a mistake that was. I will already be putting down my name with, I think it was a bit of a mistake, or at least I think how they did it was a bit of a mistake. First, let's talk about some of the better innovations. One, and I love this still, they put out one book that gave you all the core rules. Here's how you roll dice. Here's how you make dice pools. Here's how you make a character. Here's how you make a person in our World of Darkness. Plus, it's a pretty slick book, like all their books. The new layouts were really rad. I liked a lot of the things they were doing with the layouts in the new World of Darkness. In some ways, they've never been better. And this book, because it's not focused on vampires or werewolves or anything in particular, it's just weird. It just, all of its background setting is just a bunch of weird, like, I don't know, there's insect men in the shadows. What does that have to do? I don't know. Is that cool? You can do something with that if you want. And that's basically the origin of the God Machine, which they bring back many, many years later. Or, yeah, many, many game lines later, apparently. That's the demon, the created, or demon...
The Descent, I think.
The Descent, yeah. I never played it, but... so that comes back. It's introduced in this book and then comes back 6 games later or whatever. So I think that was a great innovation. You have all the rules in one book. So when we release Vampire the Requiem, also a beautiful book, by now they were hitting on all cylinders from their aesthetic point of view.
They really make great-looking books.
Great-looking books. It's the off-the-shelf version looks like a collector's edition of other books. But so then when you buy Vampire, it just gives you Vampire-specific stuff. It doesn't recreate the wheel. It doesn't tell you what role-playing games are. It, like every other book had kind of had the burden of, this might be someone's first RPG.
Right.
Here they kind of assume that you were bought in a little bit. And if you bought the World of Darkness book, your storyteller could buy the Vampire book, and they could lend you off whatever you needed to know to create your Vampire. But one of the big kind of mission statements going in was no meta plot. Right? They were going to reset the whole world from zero. They simplified a lot of things. They made other things way more complex in good ways. I think they made it crunchier and deeper. But boy, as a meta plot fiend, again, all of our games now were happening during the apocalypse. Like we had named characters galore. You wanted to meet Beckett? Bitch, I fought Beckett in an alley. Like, you know, like New York's falling. I know somebody who was there. Like the whole Sabbat fall of the South. That's where my Prince of Pittsburgh came from. Everything in that World of Darkness, that Pittsburgh by Night game that I ran for you guys, was steeped in my own World of Darkness. That's the state of the end of the world at that point. Told this great story in Rio de Janeiro where the Malkavian and Toreador antediluvians wake up. And there's this flood of fire ants that's basically Malkav feeding and like all kinds of like fucked up great things. Yeah, it was great. And all the Toreador were individually judged by Arakel herself. At some point I will have to out what a huge nerd I am as far as my children's names.
Yes.
But like great sweeping apocalypse. Like even when we were kind of building it up where we were just kind of like, here's a minor character who started showing up as kind of a recurring villain and stuff. Like that stuff was cool. It's very much the Andy-verse, right, of D&D. It's one of the reasons I'm loath to leave Toro when we do, but I'm kind of glad that we're branching out a little bit. But it's so much fun to have an evolving living world. So they get rid of all the meta plot. And then this is where they make some fucked up decisions, which, not to name drop, but I have talked to Rich Thomas within the last couple of years. It's kind of like, it was a little weird, some of the stuff that was going on. He's like, those people are gone. All those people that thought those ideas were good were gone. And we are embracing fun again. And I'm like, that's a good thing to hear. I would work for you again, Rich Thomas. You were fun. But no meta plot. Kind of weird, but you can at least see, like, they wanted a firm reject. Like, they wanted to turn the corner on that. They wanted your game to be your game again. And yeah, there are plenty of people that embrace that. There was a weird kind of overtone. It wasn't even an undertone. People were arguing on RPG Net, like writers of the book, authors of the book, and developers of the books were going on RPG Net, being like, basically telling people what their fun had to be. There was no more weird, random stuff. There was no kind of room for Rasputin to be 17 different clans. There was no Sam hates. There was no Dracula kidnapped a bunch of your dude and picked which one he wanted to embrace him and then ate that guy. There's no, like, a lot of the kind of joie de vivre, it was a little comic booky and like, yeah, maybe stood out if you were trying to play the all leather clad, bear game or something. Like, at the same time, you could ignore that. You could be as steeped and serious in all down tones as you want it to be, or you could kind of be like, I don't know about you guys, but I'm eating this bird, and everyone's cracking up and throwing pretzels at each other. Like, both are true at any RPG table I've ever been at. So there was this kind of like, this is the way to have serious fun, and it's also kind of the first I remember hearing wrong bad fun. I don't know that originated with NWAD, but wrong bad fun, that's where I remember it being popularized. Because there's a lot of people who are like, well, but I play these games for fun. It's like, well, that's wrong bad fun, right? Like, you're playing it wrong. And so among the things they did to do this was, all right, one of the great reasons to play a vampire is you have an entire history that you can write from, and you can play the characters of all the different ages and kind of be like Louis. I've burnt down 7 houses on 6 continents. Like, I've been through it all. I was there when, I was there in the French Revolution. Then I moved to America to see their revolution. Like all these different things. I guess you'd have to reverse them, but like. So instead they introduced this thing like it was the fog of ages or something like that, where the longer you were awake, you forgot. You forgot everything you'd done. And then if you fell into like whatever, they basically kept the torpor idea, which is where you're forced into sleep for a while every once in a while because your body gets so old and tired that it's just like, I got to sleep for 30 years. But when you woke up, you remembered nothing.
Yeah, that doesn't sound fun.
It doesn't sound fun, right? Like it immediately doesn't sound fun. Even if you're like, well, that's... and I'll grant them. I'll spot them. That's kind of cool, I guess.
Yeah, it's cool as fiction, but...
Yeah. And the idea, I think, was to make it so that you didn't have the same kind of generational entrenchment that was built into Vampire the Masquerade, right? Like, you couldn't be the prince for 100 years uninterrupted because you were eventually going to take a nap and forget that you were the prince, I guess. That's not fun, though. Yeah. Like, you want ancient enemies that, like, you again, here's my... my Montresor or whatever back again, to fight. Great timely reference by me, by the way. All of that's gone. You just wake up from a nap and you forget each other. So what's the point of that? Except, don't worry if you thought this was a bloodless setting where you weren't going to get into feuds with each other. Every time you encountered another vampire as a vampire, you had to roll your self-control or openly attack that vampire. Does that sound conducive to a social game starring vampires, Andy?
Sounds like you got to fight a lot of vampires.
Sounds like you got to fight a lot of vampires, friend or foe. Sounds like I'm going to attack a prince, and I'm going to die tonight. You made me do that. I didn't want to do that. You made me roll that, and now I had to do that. Or, yes, every time I meet my friends to go on our nightly adventure, we might all tear each other's throats out. Now, Vampire the Masquerade had some of that. If you were hungry or whatever, you might freak out and kill you. But, like, there's an animalism power that tells that person to sleep. Like, stop doing that. Yeah, you have other ways to like control the beast, turn the beast down.
Did I do that to I think I did that to Dagny and.
Yeah. There's definitely, you can use Ospe to do it, or Auspex, I'm sure. There are different ways to control other people's beasts, and sometimes, you just got to let them scream it out, or get this person a bus stop to eat or something. And then we'll all feel bad about it. So it made some weird design choices, all in this idea of like, this ain't your daddy's vampire. And it's like, but what if I liked my daddy's vampire? Like, that was pretty fun, actually. Well, Werewolf handled it a little bit better, but like all the cool things about Werewolf, which I keep alluding to around the edges, one of these days we'll just have to do a Werewolf episode probably. But like, everything that was kind of rad about Werewolf, because Werewolf was a comic book come to life. You are comic book super marauders. Like, you can just pop in and out of, like, the Umbra, which is this weird spirit world, which exists right on the side of ours. Well, like, in Werewolf the Forsaken, you were forsaken from it, so it was a real pain in the ass to get there, and everything hated you, including all the other spirits, including you hated yourself, like, the moon hated you probably. Like, it was all very sullen and dark, and you weren't allowed to just enjoy being a giant furry rage monster, ever. Like, don't you dare enjoy being a giant furry rage monster. And over time, and I guess as some of those people kind of left or were kind of kicked out, I don't know the full story behind all of it, they started to kind of re-embrace the idea that, you know what, we were the premier RPG company for a while. What if we just, instead of over worrying so much about telling people how to have fun, what if we just gave them the tools to have fun again and, like, just kind of did what we kind of always did well? I never got into the Mage game, Mage the Ascension. No, that one's Mage the Awakening. Oh, Mage the Awakening.
Those are the Mage game. I don't remember which one is which, though.
And I think it was the new boss was the same as the old boss. I forget if that was weak or not. I'm trying to remember who. But, like, no, I actually almost certainly that was Ethan. But again, it was a bunch of metaphysics. It was more of a system game. But, like, you could definitely do a lot more with it. This is in a post-Matrix world now. Whereas when Matrix came along, when we were playing the original Mage, it was like, oh, we should have been playing Mage this way the whole time. Now we're in a post-Matrix world where now it's just kind of like ignoring the next two movies. That's how we should have been playing Mage the whole time. And it gave you better things at being World of Darkness than the first one did. So actually, I think in a lot of ways, Mage the Awakening was probably the better of the two games. I'd never played Mage the Awakening, though. Because when we were going to create Mage the Awakening characters, our storyteller, New York Times bestselling asshole, switched the game on us to make it Changeling the Lost. Oh, Andrew. I love that game so much. I have murmured not too quietly that Old World of Darkness, Original World of Darkness, however you want to frame it, Changeling sucks. It's just not fun to me. It's just so goofy. It's like if it was like you can play a vampire, a werewolf, a mage, or a cartoon, or a ghost. You know, like, it was just kind of like, wait, I can play a cartoon? Like, I'm not sure I understand. Like, there's so much horror built into, like, fairy myths and all, like, the different, like, they're terrific. Like, in the Terry Pratchett sense of elves are terrific. They beget terror. Like, you're doing none of that with this. Like, none of it. Well, Changeling the Lost came along to tell you, don't worry, friend, we got you. And re-embraced that tiered character creation that I was on so much about last time, was because you basically, and you can do this at any point. Again, like, I'll make a lot of overture statements that you don't need to. You can just play, like, I don't know, I want to be a chick with antlers. You can do it. But ostensibly, one day you are taken, you are kidnapped from our world through the hedge, which is kind of the border between our world and fairy, basically, capital F fairy. And you serve the gentry over there in some capacity. And your story might be, here's how you were taken, and then it's you landing exhausted on a street. You know, your clothes are ripped, and you're panting heavily, and now you have horns. And you don't remember the in-between. But the in-between was you went somewhere and served the gentry, the fae folk, the old-timey ones, the Tuatha De Danann, maybe came from the sky fairies. Big, terrifying archfey would probably be the closest thing for our D&D friends to even approach the idea of how terrifying these things are. They have no connection to humanity at all, and just like watching you squirm. Like, they're going to pick your wings off every night just to watch you squirm around. So you serve them in some capacity, and you hitting that pavement on the street, panting and sobbing, is you having major escape somehow. You and your companions, probably, you all orchestrated an escape somehow. One, they want you back. Two, the only other people on this side that you can really relate to are other people who have escaped and are just as paranoid that they want them back and are never going back if they can help it. And three, and this is my favorite part, if you try to go home, if you go back to your parents' house or to your girlfriend's house or back to meet your husband or whatever, there's a you already there. there's a thing that is U-shaped doing you things, and sometimes people like them better.
It's a pile of sticks.
That thing is a pile of sticks and leaves that is just pretending to be you. And it's terrifying. I can't describe enough like the mood this game sets, where like everything is about like it really recaptured to me what was great about the old World of Darkness was it's like every street is longer, every alley is darker, every like street lamp is flickering more, and you go home to just kind of be like, finally, my family will. Oh yeah, well, because Sticks and Dirt you graduated college finally, and is some Stepford wife. Not some disappointing lesbian soccer player like you are, and like, it's just kind of like, oh, wow. And you can go in there and try and talk to them, and you're going to sound like a crazy person because they're going to assume you're the one who just left the other room. And they're just like, no, you're got all that behind you. Or they're going to straight up hate you and reject you because their brain doesn't have time for two daughters right now. Like, so they're just kind of like, well, clearly my daughter in the other room. And that daughter might come in and just be like, I don't know what's going on. But then they're holding your mom's hand and you're just like, don't fucking touch her. Are you kidding me? This is gross. Everything about it's gross. And if you ever do confront to violence that thing, these fetches that have replaced you, and manage to overcome it with physical violence and kill it, it will just turn into like a pumpkin and a bunch of sticks. And it's so gross. It's so great. It's so terrifyingly exhausting. It's amazing. And like the power system was neat. Like you can actually just kind of it kind of dealt with some of the demon stuff where you can just make bargains with people. Like you don't really benefit. Like you get some kind of kickback to it, but you can just kind of be like, I don't know, you can cut guns in half with your mind now. You want that? All right, cool. Like every once a month from you, I can just draw emotional energy and stuff like that. You're kind of emotional vampire, so there's still kind of something gross about your existence, but you're not as gross as some other kind of monsters or creatures that they had made. So that was my absolute favorite because, again, everything about it was gross and everything about it was that personal horror returned, right? Like, I didn't feel in Vampire the Requiem or Werewolf the Forsaken that they were trying to force me to play a mature role-playing game of personal horror. This game didn't need to force you. You were doing it. You opened the book and you were playing a mature role-playing game of personal horror. And you could not remember what you did, or you could remember what you did. And it's just kind of like, oh, I hunted all my friends nightly. That's what I did. I hope they don't remember that because that's what I did. And there's that tiered creation system I was talking about. You create the person you were, you create the person the Gentry made you kind of be, and then kind of this pseudo fairy changeling on the other side of it. And then you get involved in changeling society. There's courts. There's the summer court and the winter court, and there's autumn and spring as well. You have these kind of different factions, and they weren't so much races, but they were kind of like beastlings are just like you have some kind of beast feature. Like you could have horns, you could have antlers, you could have rabbit feet, you could be any level of furry that you wanted to be. Or you could be a weird lizard person or scaly, like you could have, claws and fangs and stuff. You could be a bird person, whatever you wanted. Or you could be like a darkling, which is the kind of shadowy, like different, like you look like a heartless, or, you can absorb into shadows. You can do, they did a pretty decent job of trying to collect different tropes of different kinds of kind of fey kin and stuff like that and replicate it. So they really started to hit their stride. Frankenman's The Created is a great unplayable game along the lines of Wraith.
Apparently, the second edition fixes a lot of those problems.
I hope so. It was goddamn unplayable.
Because I was reading up a little bit about it, and there are a couple people like the second edition's a lot better, and it's the game that it was supposed to be. Like they get rid of a lot of the downsides of being a Frankenman.
Yeah, for instance, you can't stay in one spot or gather.
Yeah. I think they got rid of that.
Yeah.
It seems hard.
Again, a group game that you're supposed to play with multiple friends, presumably, not being able to gather, it sounds like a real tough time. And if you stay in one spot for more than like a week, bridges start to rust around you, like the lake breads start to run dry. It's great. That's cool. Like, and slowly, like, the citizenry like turns against you and they don't know why. Like it's really just trying to write Adam writ large of just kind of you can't be in one spot. Like they will reject you.
Yeah, but that even nature rejects you is I mean, it is interesting. It does make it difficult.
It's goddamn unplayable.
But yeah, the fact that nature's just like, no, you can't. Uh-oh. Hold on. Disconnected. No. We're back. On YouTube, you won't even notice a difference, but reality rejected us because we're stitched together body parts.
That's the plight of the Frankenman.
I got very flustered by that because my internet just died. So I can't remember what we were talking. We were talking about Promethean the Created, and I'm sure I was saying something about it, how that game is 100% up my alley, and it's it being described to me by Marty, I was like, well, that doesn't sound very good, but I do want to play it.
Yeah. No, because you play an abomination of all science and the will of God, and your very reality is an affront to all of creation, and it lets you know it. And you have to go on an adventure where you either stop bad Frankenman or you advance on this like quest to become more like a real boy.
Yeah, you can, and that's why I love it, because you're sad robots trying to be a person.
100%.
But you're trying to be a person. You're trying to. You see, it's Frankenstein. You see these people. You just want to be more like them, and then, but in order to do it, you have to create another Promethean, which is in itself so tragic. Of that's terrible. Like that, you are condemning another creature to this life.
Yeah. In order to procreate, which is what else is life for? Oh, what's her name? What's the living statue girl? Because it like at first it was kind of like Galatea. Yeah. Thank you very much. Oh, and the DC Animated Universe Power Girl's name.
Yes.
But yeah, because like I think the thing I was like, wow, there's not. Mythologically, you'll hear me say a lot of things like mythologically that's sound or mythologically that's not sound. I bring it up in like Star Wars discussions a bunch too because that's my folklorically. But I was like, well, there's just the one Frankenman. No, there's a ton of unliving things that want to be alive. Pinocchio, Galatea, Frankenmans, etc. So I was like, oh, actually, there's a lot to do here, and they all do kind of have these same, resonances of the world doesn't want you in it. And you're going to have to fight and claw to stay in it. And if you want to just play Adam asking what is life as many times as Blade Runner 2049 does, like the game almost forces that upon you. Like, because you're constantly confronted with, well, am I even alive? And like you just kind of walk into town and someone like hits you with their truck and is like, get out of here, you monster. And you're just like, well, what am I going to do? I guess I better leave. It is sad robot time. All the time, for sure, Andy. You'd love it. Unplayable. Unplayable from start to finish. Which, yeah, maybe they made better by letting you form in groups more than two and stay in one place for even a minute. Become like some town's champion or something like that. And let's see, then Hunter the Vigil happened, which was the game I wrote for. And in Hunter the Reckoning, which was the World of Darkness is Hunter. And at this point, they kind of were like, why don't we just kind of remake some of the hits with a little bit. Like they had Geist instead of Wraith. And it's a weird game. I did some writing for it. I never quite got the feel for what it was trying to be. I think it was doing pretty good, though. It was more active than you're a dead sad person trying not to get turned into a chair. Unplayable from start to finish. But Hunter was just... Instead of being you're called by angels at the end of the world to wield glowing crowbars and murder Draculas, it was just much more like you live in the world of darkness. You've noticed Draculas. It's kind of hard to go home after that. What do you want to do about it? and there were like hunters for sport. There was, like aristocratic hunters. There's hunters who like had this grand religious tradition, things like that. So, but it was a lot more real world. Some did have superpowers of varying ilks, but for the most part, you're just a bunch of people who have agreed that if there's 5 of you and 1 vampire, you got a shot.
Yeah.
And it was a really fun game line from that perspective, because it was a lot more desperate. There was a lot more like, I got to write some of the tactics for fighting vampires. It was a lot of fun, because it's like, all right, how are you going to hunt a vampire? You got to draw them out. You got to bring them to public where they can't use all their supernatural stuff, and you can trick them or have them follow your one friend who's all drunk and acting tipsy. And then when they think they're following them into an alley, 5 more of you follow them into an alley, like those kinds of things. So it was a lot of fun. And I could talk about that system quite a lot, because I think it was pretty rad. It was a little more complicated than I think. I would not call it elegant in the Marty way of calling things elegant, but it was quite good though. And it was building off of an elegant system. It was just using it in a way I don't think it was designed to, like group checks, which was never built into the system really. So I think it just had some growing pains. I don't know if they made a second edition of that, but I'd be...
It kickstarted a while ago, and I think it's next year is going to be released.
Yeah. Actually, now that I said that, I am Facebook friends with the developer, now that I think about it. Clearly, we're not good buds, but I am Facebook friends. But yeah, like I could literally talk forever about various White Wolf properties, products. You mentioned telling war stories. I could tell a billion of them. But I do think we should make good on the name of the show and show off this system that I keep crowing about. It's kind of put up or shut up time. Do you want to put the character? You got a character sheet up on the board?
I have a character sheet up on the board for Vampire 20th Anniversary Edition.
Very good. Very good. I wrote a foundational doc back when I was getting you guys prepared to run it on the stream, and some version of it probably when we ran a home version of it. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to kind of walk through that, because especially there's one note that I had forgotten that I had written, but I think it is pretty important. But all right, so let's do this one at a time. Or I'll create a character, because I can't help not to. But yeah, you've got the one on the screen, so. We'll kind of defer to what you're doing. But all right, so choose a concept, a 1 to few word description of what you're going for. I then after that say pick a clan. I don't think you have to do that right away, by the way, but I think a lot of people will. Just what are you feeling? What kind of thing do you want to play?
I think and we kind of they, because let's not gender them yet. They were kind of our default character in the last conversation. I think Scumbag Accountant.
Scumbag Accountant's good. Every clan needs a Scumbag Accountant. There is no clan that a Scumbag Accountant cannot fit for. There are some that jump out more than others, but there is no clan that does not need someone who's good with money. Yeah, no, in fact, every clan I think of is a better concept than the last clan I just thought of. And that's before I get to Ventura and Giovanni, which, again, are probably the more obvious ones. The Nosferatu Accountant of just kind of like, look, we got a lot of gold bullions.
I gotta figure out the market value of gold bullions?
Yeah, look. And I've got some Bill Clinton collector plates. If they graduated, what are they valued at now? All right, so Scumbag Accountant. Love it. Love it. All right, so again, you don't need to pick a clan yet. In fact, let's leave that for a surprise. Unless you got a strong inclination. If you're like, actually, I was thinking, playing the Brujas lawyer has got to be a lot of fun.
No, I mean, that does sound fun. Well, and the great thing is, I briefly clicked on clan, and I forgot that it also has all the bloodlines in here. So, oh boy, is this thing a mess.
Be a Nagaraja.
Yeah,
everyone's favorite weird snake-worshipping necromancers.
Oh my god, there's so many of them.
There's so many. The Bali,
I'll be a demon worshiper.
Be a demon worshipping, probably child of Zalat originally.
I can be a child of Osiris. I'm sure they're your favorite clan, since they're the opposite of the followers of Set.
Traitors to the man. Oh, sorry, we carved up your god and threw his penis in the Nile. Now we're just resurrecting each other like mummies all the fucking time. Actually, also mummies. actual mummies. Yeah, let's see. What are some of the Aramans? Are the Aramans on there? Did you see the Sabbat cat ladies?
They are the Aramans.
Yep.
Let me just quick rifle through these.
Mm-hmm.
Aramans, Anda, Angelus Ater, 4 different kinds of Assamites.
Sure.
Bali, Blood Brothers. Be a blood brother.
Yeah, you're gonna need 5 friends.
Yeah. Brahmin, Bruja, Antitribu, Kaitif, Cappadocian. Are there any modern Cappadocians?
No, but I guess you could be playing Dark Ages or something like that. But yeah, they were the weird crypty necromancers, big ossuaries and living under Venice and stuff.
Children of Osiris, City Gangrel, some of my favorites.
Sure.
Country Gangrel.
Sabbat, man. Yeah, Sabbat. It's interesting they have Bruja and Antitribu, by the way, because their discipline spread is the same.
Yeah.
If discipline spreads are different, I see making them. Well, whatever. That's fine.
It looks like they have it for all of the ones who aren't.
Oh, their weakness would be slightly different, right? Because I think they even rage even easier or whatever. They frenzy even easier. I think. I don't know. I could be making that up. If I'm going to play Sabbat, I'm not going to play a Bruja and a Tribute. Let me put it that way.
Daitya? I'm not familiar with them.
Are they one of the African clans? Because
I
couldn't summon all of them off the top of my head.
They might be. Daughters of Cacophony.
Oh, man. Those weirdos.
Followers of Set, Gangrel. Gargoyle could be a gargoyle scumbag account.
Could be a gargoyle scumbag accountant. Does that mean you're an accountant for the Tremere, or are you a freed gargoyle and the gargoyles are like, now we got money, they paid us restitution, they called it.
I kind of like that one more.
That's kind of great. Great.
And for folks out there, because we haven't talked about gargoyles, they're gargoyles. They're vampire gargoyles. That cartoon you may or may not have liked is probably closer than anything that you could learn from a vampire. They're big stone vampires that they're Tremere because they're terrible vampires. Created out of Nosferatu, Zamishi, and Gangrel. Like they're just we're just gonna smash these guys together. Gargoyles.
Very good, Andrew, by the way, for knowing all the host clans that they smashed together to make them. That would be a deep pull for even some of my World of Darkness original nerds. So very good. Very good. Gargoyles. Yeah.
But part of me is kind of like, do we want to do one of these weird clans, or should we do one of like the kind of the 13?
I think the 13, but
yeah. Giovanni, who I actually have a different. I want to do. It's not too dissimilar, but for Giovanni, for whatever reason, I just want to do a pawn shop owner who. But like their main source of their grave robber, like they just kind of like, like it's a pawn shop like behind the funeral home, and it's just like cool.
Does wedding ring have blood on it? Half off.
It's game worn.
And that's dark, Andrew. I like that. As is game worn. That's terrible.
Oh boy.
The Giovanni.
Harbingers of Skull. Or Harbinger of Skulls, sorry.
Yes. Which are now the modern Cappadocians. So you were asking, are there modern Cappadocians? Right. Yeah, they're the Harbinger of Skulls, actually.
Kiasid.
Yes, the weird Fey La Sombra hybrids.
Yeah. Kulden. Which, is that Old Clan Zamishi, or are they somebody different? That's what I associate that word with. So Lamia, La Sombra Antitribu, Lihanin.
I don't know that one.
Malk Antitribu, Mariner Gangrel.
Oh right, okay, sure. You can turn into a shark or something, probably.
Nagaraja, Noaid. Yeah, I think some of these are Dark Ages clans.
Yeah, there's probably. I'm not very familiar with a lot of the Dark Ages clans. If they didn't survive to the modern knights, if you're not in my phone book, I don't need to know you.
Nosferatu Antitribu, Old Clan Zamishi. So I don't know what a Koldun is then.
Yeah. Let's see if I can.
And we're almost done, I swear. Panders, Ravnos Antitribu. I guess I didn't realize
Sure.
There were Ravnos anti-tribute, but Salubri anti-tribute. Samedi, Serpents of the Light.
Sure.
How are they different than the Children of Osiris?
The Children of Osiris are vampires who dedicate themselves to fighting the followers of Set wherever they breed. Serpents of the Light are Sabbat followers of Set.
Okay.
They are the Sabbat sect of followers of Set. And, of course, the followers of Set also disown them, in part because you're doing vampire shit. Yeah. You joined a vampire cult?
No.
We're children of the god.
And you're trying to destroy antediluvians? But
right.
It's a god.
My dude. Yeah. My dude. I have a pamphlet for you. No, I don't want your pamphlet. I want you to take my pamphlet. No. If I take your pamphlet, will you take my pamphlet? I'm going to give you 2 pamphlets for your one. Shit. This is brinksmanship.
A word I can't pronounce. Tremere. Teliavelic?
No, almost certainly, again, some kind of Dark Ages thing would be my first guess. The Ashkenazi Tremere.
Yeah. Another... what is a T and an L right next to each other?
Okay, Tlaatl.
No, I'm good.
Okay. It's probably Aztec or
yeah.
What are the pre-Mexicans?
Mayans.
Thank you.
Where are we? Toreador anti-tribute. Tremere don't get an anti-tribute? No, it's not listed.
They for sure have them. Okay.
Yeah. True Bruja. Zamishi.
Do you mean Zemese? Do you mean Zinsi?
Everybody on screen can see how impossible that would be to say.
Shimshka?
Shimshka. Ventru anti-tribute, Warrior Setites, Wuzhou.
Warrior Setites. It's not worth its own entry, but I guess they are technically separate. What is that? That might be a Dark Ages thing too.
Yeah.
So there's all of our many silly names that we could be.
Let's pick a good one.
Yeah, let's pick one of the 13s, because then you don't have to bring in a bunch of weird rarities and things like that. Although if you want to be a Daughter Cacophony, get that Melpomene going. Yep. Again, it's another clan or bloodline. You need 5 friends, because then you can sing in choruses and shatter people's skulls or whatever. The first canonically trans vampire character that I can remember was Daughter Cacophony, by the way.
Oh, right. Yeah. Because traditionally they're all women.
Yes, they are all female, and one of their members was not assigned male, or was not assigned female.
Right.
At birth,
they were a trans woman. Yeah.
Right. But membership in the clan meant that, well, you're a woman where it counts. Mm-hmm. You're a Daughter Cacophony now.
Okay.
All right, so scumbag account. Let's come back to it. Let's see how they shape up. Okay. So you've got the attributes bar there, and you're going to pick what you want to be best at, what you want to be second best at, and what you're kind of okay being mediocre at best at. Attributes are kind of the big push. They're the stuff that's not immutable. You can spend a lot of points to change it, but it costs a lot to change it. These are kind of harder set.
I'm thinking mental, then social, then physical.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. I think that makes sense.
So I get 7, 5, and 3.
7, 5, and 3, and 1's already spent for you across the board.
So perception, would you say that's like Dungeons and Dragons perception, or?
More or less. Okay, so what is it? It's perception, wits, and intelligence, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So perception is you took your time to notice it. Wits is you noticed it, and intelligence is you thought about it, right? That's kind of the broad overview, as they're said. So yes, I'd say perception is more or less analogous to D&D perception, though you'll notice down alertness and or awareness is what it's going to pair best with to fully flesh that out. Or investigation, if you're going to take your time and look at it. So perception's one half of what we would consider to be perception or investigation in D&D.
So it's here, we got 7. Let's just spend 1 in all of them. So we got 4.
And you're already doing it right. Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, you kind of spend up to where you then want to get into some variance. If you're like, well, I don't want to be that witty so that I can get extra perception and extra intelligence, or I think it's funny if kind of like I'm nearsighted and kind of bespoked, but I'm a pretty quick thinker and pretty smart or whatever. You can skew that. Usually it's going to look 3, 3, and 4 somewhere or another, but you can get 4, 2, and 4 or what have you.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, let's even go to. Come on. Let's even go to 3 and everything.
Sure.
And then I do kind of think like I am picturing someone who they have a an accountant's office in a strip mall, or they're wearing some rumpled suit, and I mean they're smart. They're definitely smart, but it's a lot more quick thinking on their feet, kind of getting out of. You look at the tax return, and you're like, yeah, I already see like 4 loopholes.
Yeah, no, I like that. That's a good take. And again, man, I miss this character creation system so much because this is where you start having conversations with yourself. Because if you think, okay, so if you put the 4th point in perception, you think you're the kind of accountant who starts noticing when the books are off and are cooked. And so you're doing the taxes for a bunch of powerful people, and you're the one who starts to collect dirt on them because you're just kind of like, hey, by the way, buddy, wrenches don't cost $25. Like, I don't know who needs to tell you that. Or wrenches might cost $25. That's just how much I don't buy wrenches. But they don't cost $100 or whatever.
How much could a banana cost, Michael?
But I like that. I like wits is the kind of like, look, I'm looking at this sheet right here. I'm seeing you're not writing off. You work from home sometimes, right? You turn on the lights. Great. About a quarter of your square footage in your house can now be office space. Boom, there's that done. I like that idea of kind of witty cooking the books. Or you can go the traditional, just kind of like, it's just me and my handwritten ledger, and I'm just very intelligent. I can write in 6 different kinds of Enigma code to hide books for very old hidebound Ventru who really like my way of thinking. It's really their speed. So, like, right there, we have created 3 different kinds of scumbag accountants, depending on where you put that 4th dot. Yep. And so, but you were saying wits, and I like it. I like the idea that you're kind of. Now you're immediately, to me, you're a slick scumbag accountant.
Yes, I'll add slick up there.
Yeah, you're a slick scumbag accountant with that wits point.
Yeah, because thoughtful scumbag accountant was a different character. As Marty, it's the perception one.
Love it. All right, and you've already said that social's your second.
Yeah.
So you're not the complete, and you've already kind of sold. You probably have one like billboard, or a TV spot that you had for a while. So yeah, you can sell. So what do we got there? I forget. It's charisma, manipulation, and appearance.
Yes.
Okay. So charisma is persuading people. Manipulating is manipulating people, obviously, and then appearance. I'm never quite satisfied, and I don't think they ever got rid of it. Does World of Darkness still use appearance? I think they do. Do they still have a comeliness stat?
Yeah, it's a little weird.
Composure. No. Yeah, composure is what it became. Presence, manipulation, and composure. Strength, dexterity, stamina, intelligence, what's resolved.
It's a little better.
It's a little better, yeah. And I think does... Now, we take what we can get. Appearance is the thing. And look, at the time, everyone wanted to be Louis the hot vampire, guy, or Lestat, the dude who apparently doesn't know what buttons are for. Everyone's a Witcher character in the vampire universe. So
less bad tattoos.
Well, not always. Who was it? Was it Christopher Shy who just put like filters on everything and just added bad tattoos to existing photos?
Oh, I don't know about that. Oh, no, because Christopher Shy, his look like paintings. They all just kind of look the same. They're all kind of that really fuzzy, washed out.
Yeah,
painting,
okay.
I think.
Yeah, someone was just straight up photo manipulating pictures of their friends and making them look worse.
Oh yeah, I was flipping through some I was flipping through Lore of the Bloodlines, which is a modern book. But when I was flipping through the art, one of the pictures, I'm like, this is just a Photoshop filter over a photo.
Yeah,
like, that's fine, but that is what this is. It's not art.
Well, it was a bit of the style at the time, so to speak. Because they wanted you to believe in the World of Darkness. The World of Darkness is the world next door, right? So they kind of wanted you to have that impression a little bit. All right, so here I am remembering from the top of my head. I could just look at the one that I have up too. So charisma, manipulation, and appearance. All right, so again, if you want, you can just go 1, 1, 1. So they're all 2, right? You got 2 charisma, 2 manipulation, 2 appearance. Yeah, and you got what? 2 left over?
2 left.
Yeah. Okay.
So I was thinking charisma and manipulation. Like,
sure.
I don't think this guy's going to be a looker necessarily.
Yeah, and that's an easy call to make, I think, in general. Again, you could be. Let's kind of talk through those third points again. If you took that third points in appearance, or took 2, 2, and 4, but if you take it in appearance, right, you're probably the guy who's like just generic. Like after high school, you were just generic, and you were kind of good looking. You had an even set of teeth, and you were like, I could probably put this on a billboard, and I don't have to go to college to be an accountant. I can just take a course. Yeah, cool. I'm doing it. Manipulation and charisma, I just think, are survival skills in any modern city and in any kind of job like that. You want to sell your business, right? You want to be able to sell the fact that you should use my accounting firm. And you're manipulating numbers. People aren't much different if you kind of take that thing. And so you want to convince people that they can, you can move their money better than anyone else. And if you ever get in trouble with the law or the mob or somebody else who comes around wanting you to cook books, manipulation will be very naturally a talent that you want to lean on.
Yeah, I think so. Now I'm just looking at it again. Sorry. I think that's because I was going up one more in manipulation, but I don't think that's quite.
That would be the only thing I'd ask is, do you want to do 2, 4, and 2?
Yeah.
To really make yourself a manipulation tank. The thing I like, though, is by making that decision where you're like, no, I'm going to have 3 in charisma, 3 in manipulation. It immediately kind of walks back. Yeah, you're a slick scumbag accountant, but you're not purely, you're not disingenuous.
Right. You're
all
not
the time.
Unlikable even. Like,
right. Yeah.
And I do like that. Like, I do want him to. Yeah. He's maybe manipulating you, but I like him.
Yeah, and exactly that. Because by making that little decision, you've kind of also walked yourself back a little bit from being a cartoon, which again is fine. Cartoons are fun to play. Don't stop yourself. But instead of being like, yeah, that's the ticket. Like I almost feel like immediately you have to be this guy. You know what I mean? Now you can just be a guy who can also go, have a beer with somebody, or can go home to a family and not be like, you spent your kid's college fund again or whatever. Again, my favorite part about that story is that it's again, which means that you've done it before, somehow got that college fund back, and then did it again.
Why aren't we talking about that success story of getting it back?
How about the time
That's a real Rudy
system, Diane? It's a real Rudy situation. Absolutely. All right.
And then physical, just one in everything, maybe?
Yeah, more or less. I mean, unless you really want to be like, well, you're undead, so I was going to say asthmatic, but you won't have that problem anymore necessarily. But no, unless you see a story benefit to being like, actually, I'm very dexterous. But by the time you've gone with whatever your tertiary is, it's probably just 2 in everything. You're not particularly exceptional in any one way or another. You're not particularly weak, and you're not particularly strong. You're not particularly...
I think that's good.
Yeah.
So what do we get? We get 13, 9, and 5. So this is going to be a little more in depth.
Now we go to abilities. Abilities are skills and things you've picked up over life. You went to school for it. That's knowledges for the most part. You went and picked up some stuff. Let me see. Like talents are things that kind of come naturally to you, or things that you developed in your natural environment. And skills are things you went out and like honed over time, basically. So these are things you acquire. They're skills you put deliberate effort into pursuing. So, and you already kind of did this up with attributes, but here's a little more important to kind of start putting a couple dots and things like, I need this, right? I need finance.
Yeah.
Like
for sure.
Computer's probably a good one, And once you start being like, ooh, I'm going to want as many knowledges as I can get, that's going to naturally be my primary, Then from there, actually, looking over it, I don't see myself having a lot of skills necessarily. So it's probably talents as secondary. You can kind of, I always put a dot in everything I know I need, and let that kind of dictate, like, oh, and then I can fill out the rest of knowledges with the rest of the 13 or whatever. Right. Or I can fill out,
It's 13, 9, and 5, 13, 9, and 5. Okay. Man. I think knowledge is kind of, because finance is there.
Yeah.
I kind of think that has to be our number one.
And mental being your first, it naturally follows. It doesn't have to. You can make a bunch of fun combinations by being a mental first, talent first kind of person or whatever. But I think that stands to follow. And now what's going to be fun is watching what other knowledge is with these points. Some of these points you're going to have left over. You're just going to be like, yeah, and medicine. He was originally going to be a doctor, see? Or a coat. It turns out he's worked for the Giovanni for, 16 years without knowing it until he realized there's a lot of skull motifs on these letterheads.
Which I was also thinking then, could he get away with that being his second best one? 9, if you really only need like points in finance, computer.
100%. 100%. Now you're thinking with vampires, for sure.
I love that.
Yeah, if you can get out of there with 9, shoot, all of a sudden you got some talents or skills you can really focus in on. And those, in my opinion, if you want to be like a knowledge-based character, you might be able to get away with computer, finance, maybe some academics, maybe a little law just to keep yourself out on the right side of it, right? If you can apportion 9 points there, now you can become like, what's your second thing? Or how did you come up? Like, were you a bagman for a while before you were like, I'm legit now, I'm out? And then they come and drag you back in, Or, talents will be a lot of characters' primary because there's just so many good talents that come up in a lot of roles. Alertness comes up, awareness comes up, athletics is going to come up in any foot chase you do, subterfuge is to lie to people, streetwise is to know where you are. So if you went talents first, knowledge is second, skills third, I think you can probably make that case. Or if you were a failed theater kid, maybe skills is first, knowledge is second, etc.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, looking at talents, streetwise, subterfuge, intimidation.
Yeah, awareness and alertness are distinct. Sometimes, let me say, awareness is more kind of supernatural.
Yeah, I do remember one of them was supernatural. Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe let's make talents 1 with 13.
Sure.
Let's try it. And if we don't like it.
And look, yeah, it's not written in ink. You can change it.
Yeah. Okay. So
and here, while you're kind of talking yourself through some of the points you're going to spend, I want to kind of go over the thing I had written for this. So abilities.
Yeah.
Again, pick a primary, secondary, and tertiary priority between talent, skills, and knowledges. Generally, things you're naturally good at, things you've trained at, things you've learned through study. You have 13, 9, and 5 points to spend, respectively. All right, important note. The scale of White Wolf abilities can be a little hard to get your head around at first. It's almost exponential in how they track. A single dot means you are familiar in the field. A second dot means you are competent in the field. A third dot means you are above average to expert in the field. So, right, at 4 dots, you start to like learn specialties and things like that. And at 5 dots, you're like crazy amazing. And I'll talk a bit about that in a minute. But like at 3 dots, you're expert. You are according to every scale in the book and every description in the book, that once you get to that third point, you are great at the thing. 4 is, holy shit, you're amazing at the thing. And 5 is you are world class and you are probably somewhat famous for the thing. So the better you can start talking yourself into, 5 points is almost ridiculous. You don't want to take 5 points unless unless you're playing some kind of really weird concept or whatever, where you're just kind of like, no, I have a 5 in swords. Great. Then you look at every problem as something you can fight with a sword, by the way. You've spent a lifetime of time becoming expert in swords. That's not something a modern person does. And with vampires, you get away with those excuses a lot more. Like, yeah, I've had several lifetimes. Swords was the least of my concerns at this point, but I was pretty good at them in the day. So a third dot means you're above average to expert in the field. At 4 dots, you are among the best and may choose a specialty within the field that grants you an extra die when that specialty comes up. So if you're like swords, but broadswords, you'd have an extra dice. So 5 in total. 5 dots means you have an almost supernatural ability within the field with a mastery a few else on Earth could match, possibly to the point of monofocused derangement. unlike D&D, where your best bet is to prioritize one or two things and be great at them to the point of forsaking everything and be okay in a handful of secondary skills, World of Darkness very much benefits from having a good spread of things you are okay to competent in to give yourself a chance at succeeding across a nice spread of circumstances, rather than tank one or two things real hard. And I stand by all of that. Mm-hmm. Now, a house rule we came up with eventually, because again, like, look, we were young punks. We were just kind of like, my first character, I think, had a 5 in Protean, a 5 resources, and a 5 generation or whatever. I was just kind of like, why wouldn't I want the best of all of it? I'm sure I had a 5 in firearms or some other lame crap. And over time, we were just kind of like, the more we started thinking about it, the more we started thinking of kind of the bell curve of the way that these abilities play out and stuff like that, the more we were like, dude, at like 4, you're amazing. Like, you're world class at the thing. Like, you're a who's who entry where everyone's an Olympic level gymnast somehow. Like, really, everyone? There's a lot of Olympics missing their monkeys right now. And so we determined that if at 4 you could take a specialty, at 5 you were amazing, supernaturally so at the thing, but then you had to take a derangement that made it so that you think of things like when you're a carpenter, every problem looks like a nail, right? Like, if you have a 5 in firearms because you just decided to be that weeb or whatever, fine. Then you look to solve all of your problems with violence, like, first. Like, if you have a 5 in history, you are paralyzed all the time by, like, how this situation is played out throughout history in different ways. Like, or you can't exist in the present because you're constantly kind of trying to, connect it to some point, crisis point in the past instead. Like things like that where and it was self-imposed. It was never like you had to do it or whatever, but it dissuaded most of us from ever taking a 5, or if we did take a 5, we were taking it to take the derangement of like, I want a 5 and drive. Motherfucker, watch me 5 and drive. Like, I just live cars. I'm a living car. I think I'm a car. Because that could be a concept in and of itself, but what do you got? Are you
okay. So for talents, I didn't go above 3 in anything.
Mm-hmm.
But I got 3 alertness, 1 athletics, 1 brawl, 1 intimidation, 1 leadership, 3 in streetwise and subterfuge.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Immediately, and you can tell me whether or not this is what you were thinking or not, but immediately this to me says that you grew up a bit of a street kid.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you grew up probably a little rough and tumble, probably from a kind of not great neighborhood, but you were always smart and you were able to kind of like work your way out of that neighborhood. You're able to fast talk yourself a little bit to avoid getting your asses kicked, but not so much you didn't develop a point in brawl somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yep.
Like this kind of like immediately those points speak to me of the kind of character I think you are. I don't know how much of that was going through your head at the time.
Point of athletics. Yeah. I ran away from some of those fights.
Yeah, you got it.
I got it. Alertness, your head's on a swivel.
Yep, you can get jumped.
Yeah. Leadership was maybe something like a more recent thing. It's like, I have employees. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
I
love this character creation system because you start talking yourself into, do I have any leadership? And right there, you're just kind of like, I probably have a couple people working for me, so that's got a leadership thing. Yeah, absolutely, I love it.
Make them sing the Eagles fight song every Friday.
Quit emailing your department, Rick.
It's 100% not something my boss does.
Someone needs to unplug his computer and just like put a flashing screen on there. Like, I'm working too. Let Judy handle it.
Oh boy.
Sorry.
Okay.
Andy's boss, if you're watching, big fan.
He's a great guy. He's super nice.
He's a snack too.
According to my wife and others.
Yeah. All right, so then you got what, 9 knowledges, right?
9 knowledges. So finance for sure.
For sure.
Computer.
Yep.
I like the idea of having a point in law.
Yep. Just enough to kind of stay ahead of it. And just make sure you're on the right... You're cooking books a little bit, but not so much that you want to be full breaking laws.
Right,
maybe.
right.
So you want to be aware where the line is.
Maybe a point in investigation.
Sure.
And then I don't really... No occults. I don't think medicine, science, or tech. Academics, I think I liked what you said earlier. You're like, I don't have to go to college for this. I can get a certificate.
I can just pass a certification. Yeah, shit. Yeah, I like that.
Okay, so we spent 4, so we got 5 more. I should probably put finance to at least a 3.
Yeah, sure.
So that's what,
if you're any good at your job. Now, what about politics? I didn't hear you mention it one way or the other. Are you aware of it? Do you help put money into pockets? Do you take money out of pockets?
That's probably not something he's not going to run for comptroller or anything.
Right. Yeah.
But he's helped enough shady politicians that he knows who's on the town council and stuff like that.
He knows who's running for sheriff at any given couple years.
So I got 2 more.
Okay.
Maybe another point in computer.
Now, game-wise, if you're ever on a fence, game-wise, investigation's going to come up a lot more than a lot of these other things, unless you're forcing situations. So, investigation is never going to be a sunk point.
Okay, let's do investigation then.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I was just going to say, or you could flavor-wise kind of be like, maybe I know a little bit more about the law or a little bit more about politics, if you kind of wanted to go character-wise that way. But if you're ever kind of like, I got this last point, there's a place where that point will always go, in my opinion. Investigations are great knowledge. Computer wouldn't be bad because you never know if you're going to have to hack a thing or whatever. Technology is probably never going to go wasted. In skills, a stealth or a firearm or a craft or something. Talents, alertness, and even awareness or whatever. There's athletics, things like that. There's always going to be a good place where it's just kind of like, all right, I'm going to park an extra point there because that's going to come up. I'm going to have to roll that at some point in the game, probably.
You work with computers all day. You can hack this. I make Excel spreadsheets.
Yeah. Now, one of I don't want to mention New York Times bestselling assholes name or dwell on him too much, but we all did, and this will come up inevitably in any role player's life at some point or another. But we all created ourselves, right, with this wonderful system or whatever, and that dude had been into computers our entire life. He ran his own BBS. He had, more than one computer that could talk to each other at a time well before that. He could run Doom before anyone else I knew could run Doom. He understood computers in a way that really was very impressive for the time. He could install his own sound card and things like that if he wanted to. And we're all sitting there we're looking at our character sheets, we're doing certain things, we're just kind of moving points around. And I think this was one of the great revelations of where we're kind of have we been thinking about these points so much? Because that dude gave himself a point in computers. And I was like, yeah? And he's like, yeah, but I can't actually do it. I couldn't build my own computer. I couldn't program anything. I couldn't do this, that, or the other thing. Everything I do is out of the box packaging. I was like, holy shit. So we all kind of re-looked at it's I gave myself a 3 in firearms. I've never picked up a gun. I'm sure I don't have a 3 in firearms. All of a sudden it really humbled everybody to kind of be like, actually, I don't do a lot of these things. For whatever reason, that makes me think of the Flight of the Conchords bit. I'm just kind of would you really climb the highest mountain for it? No, probably not. Would you really sail the longest ocean? No, it's too long. There's actually a lot of these things I probably wouldn't do. But yeah, so really thinking about one of the best guys at computers I knew was just kind of I probably got a 1. And then the better than him dude, the guy who currently has a pretty world famous blog and his entire business is converting games to Linux. I think he gave himself a 2 or a 3. I was like, man, I've been thinking about this game all wrong. I thought I can turn on a computer. That's a 2 at least. No, but I can turn on my computer and do an Excel spreadsheet. You might have a 1.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
you can rename a file. Good for you.
Yeah. Yeah. No. People assume I'm good at computers. I'm not.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I had a minor meltdown over why is this not working earlier. I was more just frustrated. Okay.
Yeah, luckily for me, people don't assume I'm good at anything. Really good at wearing vampire shirts.
Wearing the hell out of it, bud.
Wearing the hell out of it.
Okay.
It's been a while.
What do we
It smelled really bad, the bottom of my drawer, though, so I had to wash it in the week in between.
Let's see, we got 5 inabilities. Well, I want to be able to drive a car, so I'm putting a 1 down.
Sure. You're a modern young man.
Yeah, and then the other ones that I immediately on here: larceny,
Yep.
stealth,
Like lore. Yeah, a little bit.
survival's like D&D, right? It's like camping and shit, right?
It's like camping and shit. Yeah, it's scrounging. It's really more your outdoorsy kind of thing. Now you could argue that there's like kind of an urban survival that you could do of like, where to, chances are though I'm probably making you roll streetwise for that if I'm your storyteller. So you probably covered that there.
So I got 3. So I got 2 more. Off the top, etiquette and firearms, having a 1 in each of them. I know that's not great. A 1 in kind of a couple different things. But
no, diversify your bonds. And I will always take a point in etiquette.
I know
always
you will.
Take a point in etiquette.
But
you never know when it's going to come up.
Yeah.
No way to get yourself ate by a vampire elder? Not knowing which fork is which.
Yeah.
Always take a point in etiquette.
Like,
that motherfucker cares more than you do about which fork is which. And you're not eating. It's for show. You are drinking people professionally.
Okay. Yeah, not good at any of these things, but yeah, I've picked up a gun before. I've gone to the target range a couple times.
Yeah.
I can pick locks because I've had to do that before. Don't worry about why.
Yeah, if you've ever taken cash from a strip mall office to a bank, even if it's on the other end of the strip mall, you probably have a small gun that you know where it is. If you've ever closed a place after dark in the wrong part of town, you probably have a gun or know where one is. That's fine. You never have to go too far to justify a point in firearms. And also, etiquette is just managing to, be professional, be courteous when someone enters your storefront. Being able to be nice to your girlfriend's mother when she, when you show up at her door.
Yeah, I'm a business person. I passed all my HR certs.
In a Marty game, I will manufacture reasons you need to know etiquette. So you best have put some points down.
As long as I don't have to roll strength etiquette, I should be fine.
We live in a society.
Okay.
Strength etiquette, I can do, because that was the other fun challenge too, especially when we were kind of like really getting into the nuances. Like, what's strength alertness? Do you think? What's calling for strength alertness? It's waking up in the dead of night and fighting off night demons, right? Like, it's just kind of waking up flailing. That's strength alertness right there.
But I know that some people have complained that in 5e, in 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, not 5e Vampire. It's like,
there's no such thing.
Why is religion an int stat? Whereas this doesn't have that problem because everything is built on attribute
everything
plus
is
ability.
Everything, yeah. Which even Jeremy Crawford's been like, you can do that in our system. It's like, yeah, I just don't think you've made that explicit in any way, Jeremy. I agree with you.
It's also annoying if you're playing on like D&D Beyond. There's no button to hit. I can tell you. And I've told people before on our stream, roll an intelligence perception check, or intelligence streetwise or whatever.
But now you have to back out of the math and recreate it. It's a bit of a pain.
Half the time, I end up just telling the person what their bonus is. Then it's just like, okay, well, it's your proficiency. You roll it +5. It's +5. Just add a +5.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to be like, I know your sheet better than you. You have to think about it. And if I have already prepared in my head, you're going to be rolling a charisma survival check. I know that I looked at your sheet. I figured it out before I asked you. So,
and again, this system, we're already talking about, and hopefully everyone at home is just seeing why this system's so wild. The conversation we've had with ourselves just creating the character. Scumbag accountant was what we started with, and here's all the things we figured out about this dude on the way to figuring out who this dude is. Love all that, but also, any one of these combinations, like, listen, you're going to see Dex alertness, you're going to see perception alertness, you're going to, or wits alertness comes up. That's initiative, basically. But again, kind of manufacturing. What's wits etiquette? That's having to remember like your social standing in a second. Like someone comes in. I think wits etiquette probably gets rolled in Japan a lot more than it does over here because it's just kind of like, is he San or Sama to me? Is he San or Sama? He's old. I'm gonna go to Sama. Hello, honorable old grandfather Sama. Good to see you, probably. All right, he nodded. He nodded and he grunted. I'm pretty sure I got it. I nailed it. Fucking got him. But yeah, any attribute compared with any ability. Some are much more common and some are quite unlikely to come up. But that's the challenge. It's just kind of like, I'm going to angle for strength etiquette here. Hear me out. We're moving chairs, right? We're moving chairs to get Grandpa the furthest away from the liberal arts college niece who just came home for Thanksgiving, right? We're trying to move Grandpa. We don't want Grandpa to have to move himself, so he's sitting in the chair when he does it. The legs are bad. We're moving Grandpa. Strength etiquette. Hear me out.
I'll let you do
it. Yeah, shit. You think you got to play. Strength etiquette it is. I botched. I spelled Grandpa.
Okay. Let's see. Let's skip disciplines for now since we haven't decided a clan yet.
Yeah. Backgrounds is traditionally next.
Yeah.
I don't have a convenient list. I have the page number list in my doc here, so I don't know that is helpful. There's no drop. Well, I'm looking at the same sheet you are. Why
there is a drop
there
down
is a drop
menu.
down.
Yeah,
All right.
So, and a lot less options, which is good. But
yeah. All right. Allies is friends you can call and they will help you hide a body. Allies is friends you can call and they will show up and be another NPC on the scene.
Yeah, I kind of think he's got some allies.
It used to be 1-for-1. I think in NWAD it might scale where like 1 is 1, 2 is like 3, 3 is 5 kind of thing. I don't know. Alternate identity, skip it. I'm sure that. I don't even know what book that comes from. Black Hand member, skip it. We're not doing Manos Negrum here. Contacts. Contacts are people you can call who have people to do the thing you need. Right? That's a local union representative. That's a mob boss. That's somebody with allies themselves. You're calling someone and asking them to use their allies.
Okay, so that might fit better, but
yeah, a contact. If you start drawing from your contact too often, they're going to want things back a lot more often than allies are necessarily. Domain is a weird kind of point expenditure where you're buying your haven, right? You're buying you have a manor, so you have a 4 domain, right? Like you have a manor, there's grounds, you have multiple, not dachshunds. That's ridiculous. What's the pinchers? Doberman pinchers.
Oh. No, I like
dachshunds.
Just a fleet.
Dachshunds. Fleets of dachshunds. They're all ghoul dachshunds. They're adorable.
And they're so long, they take up so much
room. Man does. God. All right, Fame is a double-edged sword and a great MasterCard. Fame is literally it's one of the best. Fame is literally like you could be world-renowned. Like now, you just made the masquerade a lot harder for yourself, but you made a lot of doors easier for yourself to open, and your weird behavior easier to describe. I didn't eat these 4 girls. You did. I don't think I did. No, but you did though. Why'd you do that though? Kanye. If Kanye was a vampire, he'd have a lot of fame.
Oh yeah.
All right. Generation is the potency of your blood, and steps closer you are to Cain, the original vampire. That one, if you want to min-max, Generation's the one. Do you want to put some points in? Because it gives you more blood to spend. It gives you more blood to spend per round, and it lets your powers go above a certain level, and lets your you can spend blood to increase your strength, dex, or stamina at any time. It also increases the amount of blood you can spend on those things. It's for sure the min-max place to go. I love playing an older vampire, so it makes sense story-wise a lot of times to put some points to Generation. I don't think that's what we're focused on today, but if you were looking to twink a little harder, Generation's where you go. Herd is a reliable amount of people who let you feed on them. You don't have to really maintain the masquerade too much. You might a little bit of just kind of like, oh yeah, it's our bookie or whatever. Like he comes and then we don't feel so good for a couple hours and we don't know why. But for the most part, it's like, look, I'm a world-class artist, bitch. If you want to make it anywhere, you're going to open your wrist for me for, a blood point or 2 every couple of weeks or whatever. And points, again, are exponential. 1 is 1, 2 is 3 people, 4, 3 is as many as 7 or whatever. I don't have the numbers in front of me. Influence is the amount of mortal influence you can exert, i.e., I know the chief of police, or I know someone who knows the chief of police, and I can get the cops to show up at your door. I know a local politician and can get some shit done. I can zone you right out of your haven. That's a 5 influence. It's just kind of like, you like your haven? Yeah, it would be a shame if it became a strip mall, wouldn't it? Yeah, I think we all agree. Mentor, your sire is still alive. Your sire is still a major influence in your life. If not your sire, an elder vampire, a primogen in the city likes you. That's typically the elder of a clan in the area, or at least the most politically influential. Resources is straight up money. Dollar bill, y'all. If you want to have any money to spend, which I expect resources, I'd put a point in resources right now if I was you, because it sounds... Retainers is your ghouls. That's your ghoul dashins. I'm sorry, you've already spent it all in domain and retainers. I forgot. Just a fleet, a field of dashins.
I really want to play that character now.
For sure. I feel like he's a Nosferatu.
I see. I was gonna say just some weird old Ventru, like some just person who's obsessed with dog breeding and.
Oh, gross! That's a real Venturatore thing to be. Yeah. Someone who for sure owned a wild cat in England and then let it loose on the countryside irresponsibly to everyone else in the countryside. Well, it got too big, didn't it? I don't understand why I'm being asked to answer for my crimes. Rituals, you're not any kind of coldonic sorcerer that you've mentioned. And status. Okay, I'm pretty sure influence is mortal world, status is vampire world. Status is other vampires regard you with some...
I don't think so.
I doubt it.
Okay. Not yet. Okay, so let's see
resources, and it's kind of mentioned either allies or contacts you liked.
I always, that's one of those things where like I get the difference between all of them, but they are very niche. It's like, well, allies are different than contacts. It's like,
yes,
but they sound so similar.
Yeah, contacts get better stuff done, but are more impersonal and might call that favor back in. Allies are, if I was a better movie buff, I'd be able to quote the town right now. Like, I need you to come along and drive the car, and some people might get hurt, and I need you to not ask any questions. Mm-hmm. You know, and then Jeremy Renner's answer is like, "Where's the car?" or something like that. Just imagine that I know that movie and said the line right, and you're like, I love that movie and that scene. And what a great Jeremy Renner Marty did.
It's like he was in the room, being a vampire with us.
Just, here he is. Hey, I'm Jeremy Renner over here.
Where'd Marty go?
What? Jeremy Renner? World's famous scumbag.
Of course we want to hear you sing, Jeremy.
Absolutely, we're not just saying that because you're moderately famous. Boy, this is just you tuneless heap of crap.
Do you know Chris Evans or
like Chris said he was stopping by, or what was the story there? All right, so allies in context, it depends. All right, so again, we're kind of at a pivot point here. Allies these are still the guys you came up with, right? Allies are people that you can kind of be like, I need you to not ask any questions, but I need you to get down to the Circle K right now. Contacts are people probably you've accounted for, who you either can hold a little leverage over, or at least kind of be like, hey, I've been good for you, right? Like, you'd say I've done a good job. I could really use anyone whose job description you describe as a cleaner down at the Circle K right now. And you can have a little bit of both. If you're like, well, maybe I got one ally, at least one good bud who still will pull me out, but I've got a 2-point in contact where, like, and that could be one contact or 2 smaller contacts, right? Because, like you said, they work a little different. But like, you could have a 5-point contact, and that's one guy, or you could have 5 1-point contacts, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So I definitely think point in contacts then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've worked for a couple people. You got a little clout. Yeah. Maybe that's part of where some of your point in politics came from.
let's say our sire is still alive, even though we haven't figured out who that is yet. So let's get a point in mentor.
Sure.
And then do we want to, because we got 2 left.
Sure.
Do we want to like double up contacts and resources this
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah, backgrounds, especially with this one's mortal world, this one's vampire world, this one's personal friends, this one's like more influential context. Those, the more you play, the more you can kind of feel a little bit better, like what the flexibility is.
Yeah. And then we get 7 points of virtues, and they're conscience, conviction, self-control, instinct, and courage.
Yes. If you are a Camarilla-leaning vampire, you probably have conscience, self-control, and courage. If you are a Sabbat-leaning or path-oriented vampire, you probably have conviction and instinct. Back in the Middle Ages, everything was conviction, instinct, and courage because there was no Camarilla. The path of humanity was just kind of a new thing, kind of. Path-oriented vampires were a lot more common. So that's kind of the distinctions. You could say, I think, especially by the time V20 rolls around, they're like, you could have conviction and self-control if you wanted. Like, if that was really your bag, you could just mix and match them. They're doing the same thing functionally, and they're responding to the same things functionally. Now, we'll say conscience and self-control just because that tends to be the default. It's certainly how I came up. Your humanity, which is literally how much like a human you still look and act and feel responsible to be, is a combination of your conscience and your self-control. Your base starting willpower stat is going to be your courage. So if you have a 2 in courage, your starting willpower is going to be 2 points. 2 points in willpower are still pretty good, by the way. Willpowers are like the canon. If you're ever like... if I'm ever like, hey, you're too hungry, roll to murder 3 innocent children, each more innocent than the last. You can be like, I spend a willpower point to not do that. Also, you're being a real dick right now, Marty. All true, and yes, that is a way to use willpower. Willpower kind of lets you tell the DM, I don't feel like doing that. Like, I feel like that's too squicky. I didn't want to do a bunch of blood and gut stuff. I'm not going to do that. If I get out of this scene not eating these children, can I go and go nuts on, like, I don't know, like the monkey house at a zoo or something? And it's like, I guess, if you feel like being weird to animals. So, yeah, and I know we're running a little late, but hopefully this video ends up being a decent length. And I'm here at least until the end because humanity is an interesting stat. And I want to talk about that a little bit too.
Okay.
So just look at like just literally think conscious, self-control, and courage. Again, probably you want to put point. I did 2 at least in everything. Yeah.
I did point. I'm thinking. I am thinking. Oh. I mean, I think
self-control is a no-brainer for me for 3 for you, but I that's the one where I feel pretty confident. Conscious and courage, it's interesting to see where you break on that. As far as a 3rd point in either, or just more self-control, you're pretty good at just holding your shit together. Do you have any courage, or are you kind of?
I think he is courage because he's breaking the law. Like
that's true,
and that takes some level of bravery.
Yeah,
I don't think he has much conscience.
Sure. You've survived these mean streets, and it didn't have a lot of room for conscience. I think that's right.
Yeah.
I think that's right. So 2 conscience, 3 self-control, 3 courage. Is that?
Yeah, but
do I have my math right?
Yeah, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Oh, it's 7. It's 7.
We have 1 point left. So I think you're right that self-control is.
Okay. Yeah. 2, 4, 3.
2, 4, 3.
Yeah, I think characters have been built on less than that. That's good.
Okay.
It's going to make your humanity a 6, which is just a little below average, just because most people will probably go 3, 3, 3 or 3, 3, 4 or whatever. And 3 willpower. Now, again, the scale here is much more skewed. It takes some getting used to how you want to consider some of these stats. Like, a 3 in willpower isn't great when you look at it on paper, but willpower literally lets you tell storytellers to shove it, and you're going to do what you want to do. In the case of You're about to frenzy. You can tell, you're not. You want to overcome your Malkavian derangement for a scene. You can say, I spent a willpower point. You want to automatically succeed on something. You push it through with willpower. Willpower points are cannons. They are big, big deals. And you can regain them by, let's see. We haven't really talked about nature and demeanor, and it's one of the last things I recommend doing, because by then you have a better picture of who your character is going to be. But you regain willpower by behaving according to your natures and demeanors. So we'll talk about that a little bit more there. All right, so it looks like you have a Humanity 6 and a Willpower 3. That's good. Willpower 3 is probably better than average on average. Unless you spent for it. And if you're going to cheese to willpower, by the way. That's a pro tip.
Okay.
Pro tip at home. All right, so willpower, nothing else to do. You see that there's 3 dots and then 3 boxes underneath those dots. You want to fill in the dots. Those are permanent willpower. And then the dots underneath them are temporary willpower because you can spend them. They're an expendable pool.
Okay.
So you have a maximum of 3 willpower points, and you can spend 3 willpower points, and then regain those willpower points. The 3 never moves unless you buy more or what have you. Or you can permanently lose them in dramatic storytelling moments or whatever. All right. So humanity is an interesting stat in overall. Again, especially in the base game, humanity was the default. Then they started adding weird superhuman paths, and I've never felt very good about them because you're basically embracing a non-human centric morality system, which is hard for us as humans to really emulate.
Right.
It's just naturally difficult to do. They write guidelines on what your kind of morals are and things like that, but it starts to get kind of gross. If your one friend wants to play a path too much, start worrying about your friend, in my opinion. No value judgments, Dave. No, so
I was thinking of something else.
Me too. But humanity is interesting because, again, a 6 to 7 is pretty average. You still think and feel like a human on average. You're a vampire. You still desire blood and inhuman things, and you crave certain temporal powers and things like that. But when you do those things, you tend to feel bad. If you hurt someone, you feel bad. You can drink blood from someone and not kill them or even maim them or permanently disable them. Hopefully they just kind of have a woozy night and kind of remember things getting kind of black-outy around 10. There was that guy, he came up to me and he was just kind of like, hello, I don't drink wine. And then it was a real blank spot. And then I woke up in a bathroom. Did I do that guy?
Oh, no.
Did I like it? Did I say that I liked it? Ugh. But they'll wake up, you can lick the wound closed, that's part of it, that's part of the kiss or whatever. And canonically, they love it, by the way. Speak of creeps. You're playing Creep the Masquerade anyway. But the kiss is all ecstasy driven.
Unless they're Giovanni,
in which case everyone hates it, because you're Italian.
That's not why.
Pretty sure that's one.
I don't think they brush.
I'll look it up later.
They don't brush their teeth. That's the problem.
They don't brush their teeth. There's a real bacterial problem. But yeah, so you can get away with hunting pretty lightly, and catch and release, and everybody's fine. You don't have to maim. You don't have to kill. Everyone you bite doesn't become a vampire. In order to do that, you have to do the whole Anne Rice thing. You have to drain them dry and then give them your blood back, and then that's how they make new vampires. It's a whole effort. And I think. Was it in older editions or was it a Requiem thing? You had to spend a permanent point of willpower. Anyway,
I don't know.
I'm getting system confused somewhere in there, and I don't remember where. But so humanity is you do a bad thing and you feel bad. Oddly, when you roll humanity, right, you're just kind of like you accidentally wild out and killed somebody. Either you lost control in a frenzy or as a side effect of a thing you were doing. You were trying to fight a vampire or you tried to do something and there was an innocent victim caught in the middle of it. Or someone saw you do the thing and you're kind of sat there looking at their shocks, expression of just kind of like, why'd you do that thing? You're a Jamishi and you ripped your entire arm off and someone saw you do it or whatever. So you roll on your humanity score. If you succeed, you feel bad. You roll to feel sad.
Okay.
And if you feel sad, you retain your humanity because you did it. That's the desired outcome. That's the right way to feel, dude. Is you shouldn't kill people, and so you've killed somebody. You did a sad, and that's right. So you retain your humanity score. If you fail that check, if you roll your humanity and fail, you lose a point of humanity because you didn't feel bad. You justified killing that kid or that person. Like, you were just kind of like, no, yeah, I'm a fucking vampire is why. You know what? I don't have to apologize to you. I don't have to apologize to anybody. Like, so that is a representation of you slipping down the slippery slope that is humanity. And once you get to a certain level, you have to hand in your character, which I like that they kind of put, like, you can't just be a monster in this monster game. We know that, yes, you're a monster all the time, but, like, if you just keep acting a fool, eventually the storyteller gets to be like, you are inhuman beyond the ability for a person to play them. Give me your character sheet. Come up with a second one. Which is also then how kind of paths started to get introduced of, like, wait, aren't the Sabbat all monsters all the time?
Like, they revel in the, yeah, fuck you, I'm a vampire.
Right. So that's where you create these kind of alternate vampire religions and stuff like that, which are what paths are. All right, so that's humanity. And again, I think that's such a neat system of, like, you want to succeed, and if you succeed, you feel really crappy about it. And that's the right way to feel. That's how you should do Dracula. All right, so we've got our willpower set, we've got our humanity set. Blood pool is set by your generation. It starts with 10. That's your capacity. Your blood pool is a 10 capacity if you are a 13th generation, which is how you naturally start. 13th? 12th? 13th.
13th.
If you spent any points in generation, which you didn't, but if you spent a point in generation, you'd have 11 blood pool.
Mm-hmm.
If you spent 2 points, you'd have 12 blood pool. If you had spent 3 points, you'd have 13, up to 15 naturally to start. You'll notice that there's 20 spots there. That's just to allow for all kinds of wild things you could possibly do. And then blood per turn, as I know by the time you get to 8th generation, which is as far back as you can spend, I think you can spend 3 blood a turn. So you can hold up to 15 blood and you can spend 3 blood a turn, which means you can increase your strength up to 3. Or you can spend 1 on your strength, 1 on your dex, 1 on your stamina in a turn. You could heal 3 wounds in a turn. Blood does all of this stuff. It heals wounds. It increases your stats. It fuels your supernatural powers, your disciplines. Blood is the thing that makes all of your shit go, and you need it, which constantly has you in this balance of, I'm going to be a badass right now. I'm going to do 10 times the things to, like, totally impress my friends. Now I'm starving. I have to eat like a whole Girl Scout troop. Like, something needs to give right now. I need to eat a fleet of Dachshunds. Well, this manor looks abandoned. Big mistake. That Venture's feeding restriction is young vampires who stumble on his lawn. It's weird. Trespassers, he calls it. But all right, so we've got the broadsheets. And again, you could stop here. You could just be a scumbag accountant. Like, you just created a scumbag account. I love this character creation system. This is all of why already we've seen it. But we've decided we're going to be a supernatural Dracula. So now I kind of return to, well, we can do nature and demeanor if you want to talk about those kinds of things, but we might be straining against our time a little bit. We don't have to choose one, but again, love this system. Love this system so much. It's the first I ever remember, like, even as a human being asked to confront this question about myself, let alone others and the people surrounding me. It taught me a lot about basic human empathy. Your 2 primary stats, and functionally, game-wise, these regain willpower for you most of the time. That's more or less what these do functionally. Your demeanor is how you act. That's your forward-fronting personality. Your nature is who you are. And I love that on ice. It's the first, again, that I've ever had to confront the fact that, like, oh, I do pretend to be, I manifest a different person for company than I am when I am alone. You know, like, if you leave me to my own devices, I'm a different person than necessarily how I project. And it doesn't have to be nefarious. You can have really nefarious of kind of like, I'm a real do-gooder outwardly, but internally, my demeanor, my nature is monster. I'm a monster. I'm a terrible person. I love watching other people suffer. You could do any kind of mix and match combinations, but a lot of the time it's like demeanor is a bravo, right? You're kind of out there, you're alpha, cuck, Republican, I don't know, whatever you are. Like, you're swinging the biggest fangs in town and you can't wait for everybody to see it. But your nature actually might be that you're just kind of like, you're really cynical. And that's why you're such a Bravo, because you're like, that's the only way that people listen to me, is if I'm the loudest asshole in the room or whatever. You know, or your nature's this bon vivant, right? Like, you're just kind of like, you know, fuck, do drugs, drink blood, party all the time. And your demeanor is just some, like, I really wish I could just kind of stay home and study, actually. That would be really more fulfilling to me. I don't know. You're like a member of GWAR that way. Where you're actually just a book nerd dressed like a giant erection or whatever your problem is. So nature... nature demeanor to me, it's like we've already gotten past several of my favorite things about this character creation system, and we didn't even get to nature demeanor yet, which I just think is so beautiful. It really it asks you to confront humanity in a new and refreshing way, and really teaches you a lot about empathizing and sympathizing with people. I don't want to get too poetic about it, but it's fucking beautiful, and I love it. And yeah, you've got architect, you like to build things. You got autocrat, you want to be the one in charge. Bon vivant is you. Fuck, marry, kill is the only game you play. Bravo, you're a real bully, but you're real loud. You're the capitalist. You want to gain. You want to build. You want to caregiver. You want to care about other people. Celebrant. Forget how that's different from bon vivant, but chameleon. You milled in. You're a child. You need to be protected at all times. You're not literally a babe necessarily, but you want someone else to protect you. Competitor. Everything's a fucking. I can fucking do that better than you can. You can eat 10 cherries? I can eat 11. Watch me do it, etc. We don't need to go through all of them, like I said, but I find it to be such a great system. And if one's not on the list, you could make someone spending their points. That's all I know. But you can mix and match anything. And if you needed to create one, you just need to kind of be like, and how does this trigger your willpower response? It tends to be with your demeanor. You act a fool despite what would be better for everybody. And nature's kind of the same way of like you spend a lot of your clout to protect whatever you really are inside. I forget the exact off the top of my head. All right, let's get to the meat and potatoes to finish this out, because really what everyone's been waiting for, your mystery date. What do you think your clan is?
Oh, man, we've been talking this whole time, and I still don't have a
and
good answer.
That's the best part, because this slick scumbag attorney, money guy, yeah, book halter, could go with any clan. Almost any concept could go with any clan if you're brave enough. But this one in particular, everyone needs their money counted, and every clan needs a specialty guy who counts their money. Now, a lot of clans are going to be content to ghoul that guy. So this is a clan that was driven to embrace that guy.
That's a good point.
They need this guy. They need him more. They need him more than a tap him when you need him capacity. They need someone to get their books right all the time. And why?
I mean, oh man. Let's see. I don't know. It's so, and look,
it's so hard.
I always have choice paralysis. Like, I am not good at making decisions. Even though we created, I think, 2 other characters in the stream that it's just like, well, that person's Giovanni and that person's a Ventru. Like,
yeah.
Like, so I'm gonna have to make them later.
Yeah.
Oof.
Let's see. You've described yourself as kind of growing up, rough and tumble, surviving the streets, learning how to make your way. Bourgeois jumps out, right?
Yep.
It would almost have to. Now, I don't know that you're doing anything particularly rebellious, but listen, not everyone needs to fit the stereotype in order to be in the clan. Right. Like, they need people to watch their money, especially if you have, the scenario I was presenting a bunch last week, which I think the Bourgeois are particularly susceptible to, which is you embrace one lieutenant who seems to have a good head on his shoulder. You turn around, he's embraced 30 of his friends. Like, you can't just do that. I was owed a favor by the prince, and he's going to eat me now. You're probably going to live, by the way. He's going to let you live as an example. But the idea that, they want to start getting serious. I've always, one of the character concepts that always has intrigued me is, like, who's the Blood's lawyer, right? Like, this guy is, like, he lives in a nice house uptown. And this dude still specializes in showing up and being like, I'm sorry, do you have any reason to stop my clients? Oh, were their jeans too baggy? I'm not sure what you're stopping them for, sir. And I'm offended. So the idea that the Bruja would have that guy who just kind of shows up of like, oh, because he has spikes in his head and has split his tongue like a lizard? I dare you, sir. Please take this to court. Or, yeah, certainly they need to get their money right of just like, hey, we've dealt more drugs than I can count monies. Help. I saw your billboard. Would you like to be a vampire for us? Bruja, I tease you because I love you.
So that definitely makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I did like the little scenario we had for Nosferatu earlier, where it's just like, you need to tell us how much this gold is worth.
Yeah.
What? We're back on the gold standard, right? What?
Yeah. Can't trust the dollar, man. It's coming down any minute now.
But I also, as a person, my last character was a Nosferatu.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. You want to branch out.
Branch out.
And similarly, I would eliminate Malkavians, even though they absolutely need accountants, but only because you've recently created a Malkavian. So let's take them off the table. And we can avoid accidentally being problematic as we discuss their clan depth. Let's see. Toreador certainly needs sensible members of their clan. Because speak of dum-dums.
Like, what does he think is beautiful? Like, somebody comes in with perfect books. Like, it's just amazing.
Yeah, no. Speak of war stories, I was telling a story of the Toreador end of the world, right? Like, it was, and both Arakel and Malkav, their respective antediluvians, woke up, and they were near each other in Brazil. Like, Malkav had to, like, summon enough Malkavians together to piece his mind back together, and Arakel just called her entire clan to Brazil to feed from. And to judge. But the one character walked in the room and was immediately dumped. The Toreador clan flaw is that they are struck dumb. They are literally stunned by acts of beauty. Like, they can just sit there wrapped and having lost their shit. More Toreador die from sunrises than any other clan because they catch that first light and they're just like, it's amazing, and I have long since seen the sun. It has been too long since, and boom, you're ash. Like, by the time you've finished your second soliloquy, you're ash. But so they walked into, it was the grand ball, right? They have the grand ball. I think it's actually even a MasterCard for the Toreador clan. They have this grand ball, but it was the grandest ball. It was literally a world Toreador like convention, and this motherfucker walked in the room and saw the seating chart and was struck dumb at the expert politics that had gone into sitting everyone not too close and not too far from their rivals. Like, if you've ever planned a wedding seating chart, you know some of the politics that go into, like, well, they can't sit there. So but on a global scale of all the most effete sons of bitches in the universe. And it was so beautiful and so far beyond precision. They stood dumb in the door for like 20 minutes or something like that. And they weren't alone because it was a Toreador convention. So there was like a line of these motherfuckers. So, yeah, of things that Toreador get struck dumb. So, yes, beautiful books. I think 100%. A Toreador accountant might just be struck by, my God, it's full of stars.
So Toreador would be fun. Gangrel? I'm trying to think of like what the angle on a gangrel would be.
I have a bunch of buried lunchboxes and casino tokens.
They're not worth anything. Wait,
I mean,
stop bringing me trash.
These ones are black though. It says 500 in the middle. It's got to be 500. 500 what's? It's just one chip. It says 500. What does that mean? Name me that, suit. What about the lunchbox? The lunchbox worth anything? What's going on there?
It's an igloo.
Mm-hmm.
You can buy them at Target.
Okay. So there's a Target on me. Okay. Well, take it to auction. See what you can get. I'm going to disappear for 6 months. Gangrel. Actually, now that we've said it, I think there is one clan that does not need a scumbag accountant, and it's probably the Gangrel. What would they do with them?
Well, City Gangrel, but
City Gangrel for
but
sure.
we,
Yeah.
but
you just join the Sabbat if you're a City Gangrel.
I think we were
unless you're a City Gangrel's
Camarilla.
best kept secret, where they're just kind of like, I'm not going to religiously inundate you. I just need someone to cook my books. All right, so let's get more to the obvious ones. The Ventru. They're the aristocrats. They're the leadership people. They tend to be the business world, right? They used to be senators and emperors, and now they're businessmen and CEOs. Again, technically not literally, but the metaphor holds. So Ventru's big. I like Bruja as an option. Giovanni, the Giovanni, they're certainly in the running just because, of course, they are. But then your last name's probably Giovanni. The Hakimites.
I like the Assamites.
I love an Assamite. And again, especially if we're working in a modern world of darkness, then they've actually joined the Camarilla and could probably use some money people on, this far away from Alamut, especially because I think most of the ones that join the Camarilla are the ones that are on the run from the religious civil war going on back at Eagle's Nest. I'm just kind of like, nope, it was getting hot. It was getting hot back there.
So do you have like a haven I could crash it?
Yeah, because look, there's some people that are real mad. But 7 of 6 statues started moving. Turns out they've been people the whole time. One of them's name is Urshulgi, and it's mad. There's a lot going on. So I'm just gonna cool my heels here. Try not to rock the boat. So yeah. Assamites are good. Let's see if we can think of some other... what are some of the independents that you could still run in a Camarilla campaign? Followers of Set. Look, slick accountant, slick scumbag accountant. You're not going to have to bend a lot. But then I probably would have asked you to take some points in a cult just because naturally you'll want them. Ravno or Ravnos, depending. I always say Ravno. I don't even know what the etymology is originally, so I'm probably wrong. Yeah, it's just kind of hard to create Ravnos. Real unimpressed with that clan in general.
I don't like them, but Tremere would be interesting.
Oh man, you need to do some magic of the books. I need you to work the arcane magics that is numerology. What dark cabbalas lay in our lunch budget?
Excel 98, it's just, it does itself, basically.
You excel 98 times at your task. I understand.
Sleep.
Yes, we shall welcome you to the dark embrace of the night, where your only friend will be the night. Also blood. Probably some numbers.
Sounds like I got a lot of friends in this scenario, so
more than most, except nobody. Nobody likes you. Welcome.
But we're here for some reason.
To the world of the Tremere. The Tremere are always, the Tremere are literally living in the Big Brother house of vampires, at any given time. They're just on their own reality show that has nothing to do with anybody else. But they're a lot of fun. So let's say Bruja Ventru wouldn't be too hard if a younger Ventru wanted your scumbag to kind of come up with a little bit of street sense. I don't think we've made a strong case for Toreador, but it's not outside the reach.
No. And the other thing I was thinking about Ventru, and we will pick one because we've been almost going for 3 hours now.
Mm-hmm.
The thing about Ventru I kind of was what if you're one of the Ventru's dirty secret. Maybe you're the prince's dirty secret or something like that. It's just
sure.
You're not flashy. You're not up in with the mayor or whatever. But we needed someone that guy could trust for books and such.
And in that scenario, if you're a sheriff, a seneschal, or a prince's worst kept secret or whatever, they're probably bringing you other people's books to be tell me what they're doing. Right? I don't know enough to interpret what I have on the mare. I just know the mare's doing something.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me what. And if you kind of come back and are just kind of like, looks clean, it's like, fuck, it's impossible. Can you make it look like he's not clean? Like, that you could be like, they can weaponize an accountant that way, or use you've already taken some points in investigations. That's not bad. And again, your Bruja could do that too. If you're just kind of like, I own a dock workers union, but I need some dirt on the people the Ventru lean on. Like, I need to push the Ventru off of City Hall. I need you to have some shit on the assistant, lieutenant governor or whatever. Like, that guy looks dirty. Go find it. Like, and again, not to bring it back to them, since we've already kind of eliminated them because you've already been one. That's another good use for the Nosferatu. The Nosferatu need somebody to look at other people's books and be able to tell them what they mean, right? Like, that's a good, in the words of card games, that's a good counter draft. Get you an accountant who can go and look at what other people are doing and be like, I don't know, it looks good. It doesn't look good.
Let's do Bruja.
Let's do Bruja. Now, all the clans we've been mentioning, they have a 3-discipline spread that are more or less unique to their clan. So the Bruja is Potence, Celerity, and Presence. Potence is super strength, Celerity is super speed. Presence is the ability to win over crowds. Literally the first level is everyone's in awe of you, I think. Ventru. Ventru are the boss dogs. They are alphas. They are used to be senators. Now they're CEOs. They have Presence, Dominate, which is they look you in the eye and tell you what you're doing, and Fortitude. They supernatural toughness. They can survive fire and sunlight a little bit longer than everybody else. Seconds, but a little bit longer. Let's see. Assamites are Obfuscate, the ability to turn invisible, Celerity, super speed, and Quietus or Quietus. I've always called it Quietus. I'm pretty sure that's wrong, though. Which is supernatural assassin ability. I don't know. They can also sometimes learn magic.
It's sort of blood manipulation, kind of. Like,
yeah, because you can clot people's blood. You
Yeah.
can stop them from spending their blood. But you can also create like zones of silence and things like that. Let's see. And now I'm just running through clans while you're thinking. But like Toreador, they're your artistes. They're your art. I was about to say artistes, and then I was about to follow with artists. Great thesaurus I've got in my brain. But yeah, like they're your pop stars, they're your influencers, they're your poseurs, they're your socialites, and they have presence, again, the ability to affect crowds. Celerity, super speed for dancing and sword fighting, probably. So you have some physical ability, and then Auspe, which is your psychic ability. Auspex, the root of auspicious. But that's mental psychic abilities is putting it too broadly, but that is basically what I mean. You can pick up an object and be like, someone else is holding this. You can look at a room and be like, everyone's agitated. This person's aura is this. You become an aura person. You're big into crystals.
Yeah,
they won't even let it on the plane.
Too powerful.
The aeronautics. Yeah.
Yeah, but telepathy, yeah, it is kind of generic psychic powers.
Yeah. And then some clans have their own clan discipline. Like Gangrel have Protean, which is all your Dracula powers. You can turn into mists and bats and rats and things like that. Animalism is across a couple different, like Nosferatu have Animalism, Potence, that's the super strength, and Obfuscate, that's the super invisibility. And Animalism is, just as it says, you can summon animals to you, you can tell animals to do things for you, you can whisper a message into a mouse and send it across the town. You can do those kinds of things. And you can control people's beasts, which is a weird aspect of it. But, like, again, when someone starts freaking out because they're hungry, you can be like, sleep.
The beast being that thing inside vampires that tells them to be a beast.
Yeah.
Go beast mode.
Kill him.
Oh, it would be so easy.
Kill him and take his land. All those Dachshunds could be yours.
To me, my devil dogs.
To me. All right, so you've got you're thinking Bruja, which puts you in line for let's put it alphabetically.
Oh.
Celerity, Potence, Presence.
Hold on, let me fix that.
No, you don't have to.
Okay.
I was just trying to think it through. So speed, strength, which again kind of come from their rebel nature of being the kind of like rabble rousers and the people who are going to tear down things. And then presence, their ability to sway crowds, right? I mean, that's something a rebel needs. That tends to be their historical designation. They're the rabble rousers. They're the rebels. They're the they're the ones that tell you that those motherfuckers behind the Golden Gate have had it too good for too long. We're going to cut off their heads now. They're the revolutionaries and etc. And so the ability to sway a crowd is for certain something that they're going to need if you're going to send your country into rebellion, or your county, or your comptroller. So what do you think for your slick scumbag accountant here?
I just kind of poking at it. I did do celerity 1, presence 2.
I like it. That's let's see, that's all, which allows you to just kind of like turn it on, and an entire crowd kind of is like, what's that guy about? What, dread gaze? Do I have that right, Andrew? I don't know if you've got it in front of you more than I do, but I think that's the ability to kind of like lock eyes and be like, be terrified of me. My very presence oozes fear.
I have the PDF on my tablet, but it's huge,
okay.
So it might take me a minute to
yeah, you might find it faster than me, but I'll look through the paper copy as well.
Come on, load.
Okay.
Okay, alphabetical. And okay. Oh man, I gotta swipe through necromancy. It's huge.
Yeah. I'm in Protean, so I'm one too late.
Your magic.
Obviously. God, and they all go. Dread gazes too. Okay. The player rolls charisma plus intimidation, difficulty equal to the victim's wits plus courage. That's an interesting combination, because that's a virtue. And successive indicates the victim is cowed, while failure means the target is startled but not terrified by the sight. So yeah, you basically lock eyes and are just kind of like me. And so both of those things are presence. They're not like dominate. You can actually give like a single word command. You can give a multiple word command. You can do other, like it's literally like sleep, or run, or be gone, or whatever. But presence is a lot more subtle, but also it means it breaks the masquerade a lot less, because you can just kind of be like, you just look at a guy and that guy runs away terrified. Well, nobody else saw anything. They're just kind of like, oh, weird. Bill's acting really strange, Or when you turn on awe and other people just kind of naturally just kind of like, this guy, I don't even know what he did. I feel like he really deserves. I'm proud of him, man. I'm proud of him. Who is that? No, I don't know it. So yeah, I like that. And celerity, you said?
Yeah.
So celerity's real good, real cheese. And again, that's not accusing you of anything, but like, yeah, you get to take multiple actions per turn. It's the haste of vampires, and it's real good. And there you go. Is there anything we're missing? Is there anything that's not filled in?
We didn't do some background stuff. We didn't give them a name, but that's okay. Nature, demeanor, we could do that later. Generation, but generation is 10.
13.
Or 13, sorry.
Yeah. Sire, since you spent a point in mentor, we're going to want to talk about your sire, but that would be...
We didn't spend...
This is all character creation. Everything that we've left hanging is pretty common to leave hanging. You're going to want to talk to your storyteller about it. Now, I have a say in who your sire might be, things like that.
We didn't spend our freebie points.
Oh, that's right. We have 15 freebie points, and they got a weird scale.
Yes.
So,
and we didn't take any merits or flaws.
That's true. But that's a whole section of the book.
Yeah,
but yes, you can get a couple extra freebie points by taking flaws, or you can spend freebie points on merits, which is things you're naturally good at, or but like flaws are ranging from like you can't cross running water because in some myths you can't, so you just believe you can. It's a mental block. It's not something supernaturally wrong with you, or like ranging to like one eye or one arm. Like you can have like physical disabilities as well. and merits can be, indomitable. It actually, you literally can't be dominated and things like that. So but those are pretty expensive. So yeah, you're not done. You could spend more points. What disciplines are 7 points per dot. Attributes are 5 points per dot. Abilities are 2 points per dot, so you can raise them relatively quickly. And then I forget what 1 point is. I
think it's virtues.
Yeah,
maybe humanity or willpower if you just want to.
Yeah, it's something like that. It's been a minute, and they've got the scale down there. But and lastly, just pretty quickly, weaknesses, a spot that you would fill in. If you're a Bruja, you frenzy more easily. You have a -2 threshold to. If you're hungry, you're going to go nuts easier. If something directly challenges you or enrages you, you might have to roll willpower or under your blood pool, because that's how hungry you are, so that's how easily perturbed you are. The Bruja have a Firebrand's heart, but that also means they're easier to get to freak out and lose their shit, which is a threat to the Masquerade and a threat to everybody. That's why Bruja are sometimes unpopular. Real quick, as quick as I can, I want to talk about health real quick, because it's different than a lot of systems. And I like it because I think it's something that a lot of systems don't account for. There's a lot of I have 118 hit points, but I act the same at 1 hit point as I do at 118. So health, there's only 7 layers or something like that, 7 levels. And boy, the combat used to be real clunky. You would roll to hit somebody, they'd roll to dodge you. Once you hit them, you rolled damage, and then they rolled how much they soaked. They kind of made that simpler as the editions went on. But so you have bruised, hurt, injured, wounded, mauled, crippled, incapacitated. There is bashing damage, which is just a slash. There's lethal damage. No, I forget how they scale it, but it's slash, X, and then an asterisk for aggravated. So bruising is someone hits you with a brick. It's blunt. Lethal is piercing or slashing, to put it in D&D terms. And then aggravated is someone threw a Molotov cocktail on you and your bitch ass is on fire now. So bashing damage is really easy for vampires to heal. 1 point gets rid of all bashing damage. You can't beat a vampire to death. They're necrotized flesh. It's not going to work. You're not going to beat them to death with a baseball bat. You're going to hurt them, and they might break their arm or whatever, but then they're going to snap their arm back in place, and they're going to come back and kill you. Don't bring a baseball bat to a vampire fight. A slash is lethal, or someone has stabbed you or something else that actually takes, you have to heal a wound. And that is, so 1 blood heals all your bashing levels. 1 blood heals a lethal level per point. So you spend 1 blood to heal 1 lethal. Aggravated is fire or sunlight damage. You don't get to heal that easily. It can take you nights at a time. It takes 5 blood points and a night's rest to heal 1 aggravated point. Now, on top of that, you have bruised is nothing. Hurt and injured is -1 dice. You do not operate at full capacity when you've been hurt or injured. Wounded or mauled is -2 dice. Crippled is -5 dice to your pool. And incapacitated, you got no dice there's no penalty associated with it. You just don't have any dice to roll. You have to heal before you get to do anything. So I always like that. It looks pretty small, but damage is pretty hard to come by in this game, especially when you're a supernatural threat like a vampire or a werewolf or something like that. There are more mortal things that are much more fragile than that, but and they don't get to just spend blood to get out of it. But I always like that idea. The more hurt you get, the harder things get to do, right? That follows life's pattern of, if someone breaks your fingers, you're not going to be typing on your computer nearly as well or what have you. So I always thought it was a very clever health system. And it works in practice. You need to see it ebb and flow a little bit before you can really appreciate it. But it's something with a little bit of practice, you get to see a lot of nuance to it. And it's pretty neat. In case I have not made clear, I find all this really neat. I love it.
Awesome. Okay, yeah, we basically made a friend. There are a couple finishing touches we'd have to do. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, this is our Bruja scumbag accountant.
Yeah.
Is there anything you would like to say to wrap up or outro, Marty?
No, boy, I could talk. I could talk a lot more about a lot of things. I keep alluding. I need and want to talk about Werewolf real bad, so we'll have to get another one of these.
Yeah, this was super fun. We could have another one of these. We could build another vampire. We could build a werewolf. We could build we could build a demon.
Well, and I still wanted to kind of go through that, like, Hackamites. What's your Hackamite riff? Give me a Hackamite. Like, give me give me a Bruja. What's your Bruja?
Yeah. Hey, I'm down to do this whenever you are.
Yeah, because it's such a fun system, and the thought exercises that naturally extrapolate from it are pretty common. Again, just even coming up with, like, it's a charisma drive roll, do you think? You know, like, just coming up with dumb combinations and trying to back your way into
doing
what would you call for that? Yeah, doing donuts and getting away with it and looking good doing it. This is my appearance drive. I pull up to that stop sign, and you're just kind of like, my drip game's strong. I got my watch hand out, gangsta lean. I roll appearance drive. But yeah, no, I obviously have a lot of passion and love for these things, and it's been really great to revisit them. And thank you for giving me the platform to do so. I will always talk or answer any questions that anybody has about the system or things writ large about it. And yeah, we'll just have to manufacture reasons to do this. This was kind of like fell in line for like Spoopy Month that we had a couple Mondays in a row to do. But Vampire fits really well with Spoopy Month, but we can do, I don't know. We'll figure out like an Equinox or something, and we'll do Werewolf because they're all ego themed, something like that. We'll figure for Earth Day. We'll do something. But yeah, and yeah, like you had mentioned, like we could talk war stories or things like that. That I have a lot more to say. Again, I luckily kept my egregious "I worked for them" stories or "I know that guy" stories to a minimum. I did name drop both Rich and Justin. I'm sure Justin at least doesn't appreciate it.
What?
But no, thank you so much. It's a world of darkness. Setites are the best because they're not vampires; they're children of gods. And yeah, we live in a real world of darkness, and it's not that hard to reach and see the darkest shadows of humanity. And I wish we could paint vampires in most of these shadows. At the moment, it's all very human people doing very inhuman things, except humans are doing it, so it's probably human. But yeah, so thanks for escaping with us a little bit. Thanks for letting me chat and pretending the monsters aren't real long enough to laugh about them. But yeah, there's a bunch of shit happening. And vote now if you can. Vote next Tuesday at the latest if you can't. If you need to vote in person and stuff like that. Do your civic duty. It doesn't have to be sexy or cool. Just do it, please. Think of the competent people that can be put in place. Imagine waking up and not caring who the president is for even 4 hours, let alone that person doesn't hate minorities and people that are different from him, which is everybody. Cool. Dracula's.
Dracula's. I think I once posited the theory that Donald Trump might be a Dracula because it explains just his total domination of some people.
Oh boy, he's got presence or something for sure. Oh, and whatever makeup he's wearing is some kind of zinc-based thing that's keeping the sunlight
the
out.
sun. That makes a lot
Understood.
of sense.
Okay.
And his hair, his hair is some sort of umbrella.
Yeah, that's why he looked directly at a solar eclipse.
He was showing the sun who's boss.
Yeah. Oh god, does that make him a Stetite? Shit.
Yeah, great. Anyway, if you liked this, nearly 3 hours, possibly more, I'll have to edit the two together and see how long it is, of great content, give us a like, give us a subscribe. If you didn't enjoy it, watch it again, damn it.
My favorite outro now. If you didn't find it funny, watch it again. It was really funny.
And if you enjoyed this, give us a like. Tell us what you want us to talk about more. If you want to hear war stories, talk about werewolf. If you want to have us rapid fire, name a clan, tell me your concept for it, something like that. That's it. Be kind. Wear your mask. Don't be racist. vote if you can in person or drop off your ballot soon. And let's try and make it not a world of darkness.
A world of darkness.
Bye, everybody.
Yeah, love you people.